That's not what actual procedure
No. So this is 2 years ago.
And there are two procedures.
Yep.
One is for the, this is,
We're
oh no,
on.
that's
We're live.
All right.
This is the one.
Wait the other 30 seconds to get rolling.
Okay.
Oh, maybe it's not.
Whose clock we going by?
I don't know. It's like they're all.
We'll go
different.
off of the almighty internet and see
There you
what
go.
they say.
That's probably the most accurate.
Yeah. What do you got? Any picture yet?
Yeah, here.
Do we want to shut either of these? The doors, do we want to shut either of
We're
them?
gonna be loud.
I don't
I don't
intend
need
on
to
it.
unless it helps for your purposes or
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
where they get too rowdy in the library to disturb us.
That was my real concern.
Yeah.
We are at 1 o'clock.
Well, it's 1 o'clock, and so why don't we go ahead and get started? I guess absent of any other, I think we'll just launch it. So yeah.
I almost feel like we should move because we have our backs to the audience.
Oh.
You don't love it?
I don't know.
Do you want to, well, we don't want to screw up.
Do you guys want to move over here and then
I think I do.
we can move on that side, or we can just stay where we're at?
Sir, were you afraid of what we might do?
No. I just want to see all your faces.
They had your best side, Stewart.
I didn't want them to get the glare that's starting to come off the back of my head.
Yeah, you got nothing.
Thank you, Mark.
Dan and I have this glare thing.
Oh, yeah. We perfected it. Yeah.
All right.
All right, well, we welcome everyone here. Thanks for coming. Appreciate the time that you folks from the community are dedicating to be here, and I appreciate you guys on relatively short notice. We had this spot. We could at least try to make it work this week to have this conversation. For those that don't know us, hopefully you know these folks. My name's Dan Clark. I'm the director of the Local Government Center. We're part of Montana State University's Extension Service. Our center's been around for 40 years, and our role is to provide technical assistance, research, and training to local governments around the state to help them be more efficient in the delivery of services to the citizens of Montana.
For the third time, you did pretty good.
Yeah. So that's who I am. I'm here with Ashley, if you want to introduce yourself.
My name is Ashley Kent. I am the associate director. I'm here to make sure that Dan doesn't make any major mistakes.
So, as a little context, we don't always travel in pairs, but with this upcoming House Bill 333, which will be going into effect October 1, there's maybe opportunity for us to have more of these conversations. So you folks here in Choteau, at the behest of Mayor Merja and Sheriff Van Setten, said, look, we'd like to have you help us facilitate a conversation around the law enforcement contract. The new law, House Bill 333, is going to put us in the crosshairs of moderating these kind of conversations around the state when there is a challenge for cities and counties to come to an agreement on the level of service and the cost for those services for law enforcement around the state. So, like I said, it doesn't go into effect till October 1, but I think we're going to try to get our feet wet on this issue, and we've been diligently trying to collect data and information that might add value to this conversation. So we've prepared a white paper that is a work in progress. As we continue thinking and working on this issue, we're finding more and more things to add to our white paper. It's now finding time to actually write it and add it to the white paper, but it's and we're also collecting contracts like this between cities and counties, or municipalities and counties all over the state. We're collecting these contracts. And I'll tell you this, what I've found in the, I don't know, dozen and a half or so that we've collected so far, they're snowflakes. No two are the same. So it's been a real challenge for us to kind of deconstruct these and try to find, is there any continuity or consistency in what's being agreed in these contracts? And so as we roll into a community and adding value to a conversation, we've got to be helpful for us to say, well, what is typical or within a range or a percentage around the state? And we're finding very difficult to find any sort of intersection where those things meet. So we may, for the time being, just deal with these as one-offs. And so that puts us where we are today, just dealing with the specifics of Teton County and the city of Choteau as, what is the specifics of your situation. And really our role here is to provide space for conversation to help the city and the county to come to some sort of mutual agreement on what would make sense for the level of public safety and law enforcement within the county and within the city.
Dan, could you give us a little bit of a rundown real quick, just so we're all kind of level set on, this is the public service, it's not the sheriff's service, it's not the mayor's service, it's the public service. They are sitting in the seats to facilitate that conversation, but it's not theirs to own necessarily.
Yeah, and so one of the things we talk a lot about when we travel around the state working with local governments and people serving in government is that the reason why in society, and we've been doing this not just in this country but all over the world for centuries, is we create local government because there are certain things that make sense for us to do collectively rather than individually. So that means there are certain things like water and sewer and transportation, public safety, fire protection, ambulance service, that it doesn't make sense for us to each be responsible for providing those services individually. But we've recognized in society that it makes sense for us to say, let's pool our resources together and provide certain services. And that would be, law enforcement would be one, fire protection would be one, water and sewer, right? Transportation, whether it's rural roads or city streets, how do we maintain that infrastructure? And so when we pool our resources together to provide that service, we call that taxes, fees, and assessments, right? So we collect resources to deliver those services. And then how we make decisions on how those resources are employed and delivered, and the quality of service that those are delivered at, that's where we elect people from our community to make decisions on our behalf. So in our communities, what all y'all have done is you have given to all of these folks. I'm looking at you, all of you are elected. So you have given them your ability to make decisions on your own. You've said, I'm giving over to you my decision-making authority. However, I expect you to let me know when and where you're making decisions and allow you to participate in the decision-making process. So what these folks are doing is they are facilitating for you what you've said it doesn't make sense to do yourself. So you've said, look, we're going to elect you, we're going to give you our tax dollars and our fees and our assessments to make good decisions on our behalf, but we're going to hold you accountable for those decisions. Okay, and so for the folks here, you're facilitating for them these services. And so you're trying to decide on behalf of these folks what level of service would be appropriate for the amount of money that we're generating in taxes, fees, and assessments. And if there is an expectation that the public has about a level of service that is greater than the resources that are being collected, that's an important conversation to have, right? So either we've got to realign your expectation about the level of service you're going to receive for what you're willing to pay, or you have to think about how do we raise our revenue or our, what we pay into that particular service. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where these folks are at, trying to figure out how that all works. Now, we want to do 15, 10, 12, 4, 20 now?
Yes, but I do want to just note that.
I probably didn't say everything that Ashley wanted me to say in that diatribe, so she's going to help move me along here.
So I'll tell you this, yesterday we were planning out what we're going to do, how can we make this the most efficient conversation possible while still having space for really good discussion. And I said, well, I'll be happy to be the scribe and just write stuff up. And he stopped me, looked at me, he said, there's absolutely no way that you will sit through an entire meeting and not say anything. Yeah, you're not wrong. So what I want to add to this is these gentlemen are demonstrating that transparency and accountability for the decision making for your services and your dollars through this meeting. This did not have to be an open meeting because it does not meet the requirements in 23202 for a meeting of the legislative body. Yet they chose to ask the media to be here. They chose to invite the public in because it's your process, right? So they are recognizing and upholding that principle for you by virtue of having this meeting in the eyes of the public. So
yeah. Well said. So the next thing I wanted to just touch on is that over the last 25 years, since 2001, I think it was House Bill 127 is what I want to say, was passed, and that was called the Big Bill. And the Big Bill had in there this provision that translated into, in our Montana Code, annotated Title 15, Chapter 10, Part 4, and Section 20, if I got all the numbers right. So 15, 10, 4, 20. It capped the ability of local governments, so cities, counties, special districts, from being able to increase their mills that they levy each year to 1/2 the rate of inflation averaged over the past 3 years. Initially, that was, so okay, we're half the rate of inflation for many years. That wasn't very much inflation anyway, so it was a small amount, and it wasn't, go ahead.
Can I add something?
Go
That's
on,
the
yeah.
rate of inflation figured by the state, which at the peak was 2.44%.
Yeah.
So it was worse than the rate of inflation.
Yes, and that's where that problem with the averaged
Right.
over the 3 years, where you're taking the highs and lows, and so we may have been experiencing high rates of inflation, but when you add the 3 years, it still comes back pretty low. So this has been a challenge, and so add now that lack of being able to keep up with inflation. So the cost of tires, the cost of gas, the cost of all the things that a local government has to purchase to provide the services to you, they're slowly getting further and further behind as time goes by. That wedge between what the rate of inflation is and what they've been able to collect. So that wedge or that difference has been significant to the tune of
About 23%.
23% different in purchasing power if they were to stick with the rate of inflation versus where they are now. So this is not an uncommon conversation to be having across the state, as the county is struggling to maintain and keep up with inflation, which they haven't been able to, and the city has been able to keep up. And so then when we have these kind of conversations, it's like both of them are struggling. Both of them are trying to meet their needs, and both of them have this big hole that's been blown in their budgets over the last 25 years. The good news, kind of, the sparkling light at the end of the tunnel, is not a train, well, it is a train, but the legislature, this last legislative session, has now modified that law, allowing the full rate of inflation up to 4%. So moving forward, this issue of the keeping up with inflation will be resolved. Moving forward, the problem is we still have 25 years of this gap.
Right.
Right, so that's some of, so I don't think anyone's trying to take advantage of anyone else. It's just each entity, each jurisdiction is struggling to keep up. And this is where it creates a little bit of tension when we start having these conversations. And it's just not here. And this is, I think, one of the results of that House Bill 333 is that we're seeing these flashpoints that are happening, and it's all about resources. So that's kind of one of the things that we can say that's brought us here. How do we deliver services given the limited resources we have, and trying to maintain expectations of the public. And so there's a lot of things that are going on here that they're trying to work through. And that's what we'll find, some of these, a gap between what one entity says this is what it's going to cost, the other one says this is what we can afford, and so how do we work that through? All right. So the next thing I want to touch on, so this is all just some context, and we'll get into some discussion here, but just for both you folks and them, this is where we're coming from. I want to talk a little bit about the role of the city and the role of the county, and in particular the sheriff's department. So if we look at the state statutes and the attorney general opinions that inform us of what their duties and responsibilities are, and how the law looks at these relationships. So the city is required to have a police department, or let me back up. It's required to have a police chief, and they have an expectation and requirement to enforce their laws. The county, likewise, particularly the sheriff, has responsibilities also to enforce the laws in the county. The law doesn't differentiate when it talks about the county, it's the county. It doesn't differentiate between city, those within a municipality or those within the county, but it's the county. The Attorney General put a fine point on that by saying, yes, that the sheriff does have a responsibility to provide law enforcement at the county level. I just want to be clear, whatever that looks like, the county level across the whole county. The city has a responsibility to provide law enforcement in the municipality to make sure that they're enforcing their laws and ordinances in the city. And so when we get in these interlocal agreements between the city and county, because it was, I want to just, I'm throwing this number out, 1997? When the city, 98? Not far off. 1998, when the city disbanded their police department and at the with Sheriff George Anderson at the time decided, hey, let's and the commissioners. Joe, were you on the commission at that time? Was that
Not
before?
that long.
That long. It's been a while. That
Been here a
it was
long
probably Arnie Gettle and
Probably Albert.
Albert. Yeah, I bet it was that crew. So they got together and said, hey, let's, how do we make this work? And we'll assume. And so basically what happened is the sheriff's or the city took their resources and sheriffs or their their police officers, they kind of molded together and the sheriff's department expanded a bit. And they took on the role of providing law enforcement that would be expected of a municipality. So what do you have in the picture? So one way to look at it, in my mind, we're saying the sheriff has this responsibility across the whole county. And the city has responsibility within the city. And so what they're doing is a contracting to say, look, we know you're going to provide this general law enforcement for the whole county, but what we need is a specific law enforcement for a municipality. We're all living close together. And when we live close together, that creates greater opportunity for conflict and enforcement of laws and all those things that we come together as in community to say, hey, this is how we want to manage our society. And so that's really what we're looking at here, is having the city contract with the county sheriff's department and say, look, we have this level of need within our community, which is in addition to what you're already providing. And that's what this contract is. So that's how we're perceiving this discussion. So as we come in, we're not rolling into a community going to tell anybody what to do or how to do it. We're here to, like I said, create a space, allow people to allow these folks to have the conversation and to think through and help facilitate a conversation and hopefully where we can come to an agreement on what is the structure and framework of that interlocal agreement and the level of service and the amount that we're willing to pay for that. And so that's our role. I think that's what I wanted to say there. And so it's a public service, public process, public dollars, facilitate that conversation. Am I missing anything?
I think so.
And so one of the reasons why I asked is here, because we may have to split up and do this around the state, so we're trying to calibrate each other as we do this conversation.
And by the way, that means that Choteau and Teton are on the leading edge across the state.
Yes.
You are the cutting edge of
Tip of the
everybody.
spear. Tip of the spear, you folks are.
I think we all have felt that for over a year, that we're at the tip of the spear. We're starting to get a little bent on that.
The tip's getting a little dull.
Yeah.
Or it's running through you, either way.
Yeah.
All right, so if you're, we have the statutes for both city and county and those responsibilities, but if we can assume or agree that, and I don't know if that's how you're also seeing it, if you're seeing it that same level, that there's still, as you think about, Sheriff Ann Setten is elected by everybody, not just those that live outside the municipalities. As well as, Commissioner Dellwo, the same situation. However, that these two gentlemen are elected from within the municipality, and they have certain jurisdiction responsibilities within the city, and they don't extend outside. So that kind of defines that relationship. So, all right, is that good for context? And any thoughts that you folks might have at this point, just in general about? Because we might ask you here in a minute more specific things, but
Yeah, that's good. Good job. I think you explained it way better than I ever could have. Thank you.
Well, he gets paid to talk.
I'm just-
You can tell, I'm supposed to get paid to talk about it, but I suck at it, so.
I'm real glad Dan's not out there trying to keep the peace amongst the public.
No, that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, we each have our own roles that we do well at. So, so let's talk a little bit about some ground rules, and maybe that might help establish kind of how to move forward in these conversations. What would you feel, between the four of you, what do you think would be appropriate ground rules or rules that you think might help further the conversation today? Things that we all want to remember, and in a way, putting sideboards to your conversation. Make sure that you're kind of keeping it tight and that you're being respectful to each other.
Well, my thoughts are, is I'm here, and I won't say this is absolutely the last time, but I'm here to put something together today that's going to be something that's palatable for everyone, and we can move forward. So we need to keep on point.
So,
Are you
Chair-
also, and so I guess my question on that, are you looking for something long-term then? Not just something until October 1st or for the next year?
I'm looking for the next year, and then creating this contract so that there are annual meetings to be able to outline where we've been and what we think we can expect in the next year and adjust accordingly.
Okay.
Okay. You good?
Yep.
Mayor, do you want to go, and then we'll kick over to Joe and Josh.
Yep. I don't know how to put this, so Ashley, feel free to translate.
Yes, sir.
But I think this needs to be courteous.
Okay.
I think the discussion has, especially outside of public meetings, but also somewhat inside, not been courteous. And I would say that most of the people who have not been courteous are not in the room.
I agree with that.
And so I think that if we can't treat each other with respect and courtesy, then we aren't going to get anywhere.
Agreed.
Could I call that an expectation of good faith participation?
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be a good way to put it. Thank you.
Got you.
Yeah. Commissioner Dellwo, you have thoughts or expectations, or?
I'm just hoping it goes better than it has been going, because this last year really sucked.
Yeah.
Here, here.
Yeah. Okay.
And I get the sense that nobody's here because you're trying to stonewall something. Everybody showed up to the table because you want to see the best for your community, right? You're
Yeah.
all here putting in the work, doing the things that may be uncomfortable or feel like they have been unproductive because you're willing to see it through for the benefit of the citizens.
Yes.
Okay.
Does that sound?
That's the only reason I'm here, because I don't think that Choteau needs to spend $750,000 on their own police force when we already have one here locally.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do have constituents outside the city, but the city includes me too, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh, what are your thoughts?
I think the biggest thing we need to remember is basically everybody, as far as the city council side, is coming into this fresh. So anything that's happened before us, because new mayor, new council,
New faces.
new faces, and not to hold previous conversations with other members what our council was against us, our public,
Yeah.
I think that's,
and those things.
yeah.
Water under the bridge.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, relitigating the past when we're here today to talk about what it's like moving forward.
That's not moving forward, right?
Yeah.
Look in the past.
Okay. And any other expectations for the day? What you hope to get out of this by the time we're done at 9:30 tonight?
I won't be here tonight.
Yeah.
Joe's like, yeah, I can be here.
You might be in here by yourself at 9:30.
Good luck with that. You know, what would success look like for?
A tentative agreement pending approval from the city council and the commission.
Yeah. So hammering out something that we can walk away with.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I think the word there is compromise.
Well,
Because I think there's been a lot of extreme, and there hasn't been a lot of meeting in the middle.
Any other thoughts? I'll just briefly mention, when I mentioned earlier that these contracts are like snowflakes. We've been trying to figure out, is there, you know how they say you shouldn't buy a house, or your housing shouldn't be more than 30% of your salary, right? And we thought, well, could we apply something similar, some sort of a framework similar to this, right? If we looked at, what is a city capable, how much should a city be thinking about for their law enforcement, right? Is there like percentage that says, like 30%, they shouldn't spend more than 30% on law enforcement, or 40%, whatever that is. And so that's what we were going into this, looking at all these different contracts, trying to figure out, is there a common percentage? And that might help the conversation, say, whatever's being proposed one way or the other, it's like this, looking at the bell curve, you're within the appropriate range, or you're a little on one side or the other side. Well, to let you know, for communities that range in size from 1,425 people to 1,986, right? So I'd say Choteau's right in the middle there.
The high end, yeah.
High end on that. We didn't get the percentage on this, did we? Is it on my? It was ranging from like 4% to 51%.
Yeah.
So that's not helpful. So and it was interesting because the 4% was saying, we're not happy with our contract, we think we're paying too much. And that's they're one that's on the list of us to probably be engaging in and having conversations likely after October.
And
51%, they're like, once we had this conversation, that, that's a lot, maybe we need to rethink this.
And for me, the compounding factor was there was no consistency. So that the cost side of the equation is one thing, but it's the services delivered is the other side, right? So not only is there wild variation in the data set, but it also has no consistent, this is what service is.
Right.
Some of them, it was full law enforcement 24 hours a day. Some of them, it was explicitly written into the contract that the county will not enforce any municipal ordinances ever, but give us 30% of your budget.
Which comes back to the conversation earlier, that's the whole point of having the contract,
Yeah.
is that we have a duty to provide this municipal police service. And if you're not gonna offer that, then what's, and so this may be helpful as well to pull all these together to start creating what would be a model expectation here, and then from that, they can decide to deviate one way or the other, but at least they start from square one. Go ahead, Melanie.
Is the percentage of the general fund budget?
It was based on the data that we had, which was 2023, total funds appropriated from their AFR, annual financial reports. So we're trying to use a consistent number from each community, looking at each of their contracts. And I think Choteau was coming around 30. That's why I was gonna look at my thing. You might have it here. 30-something%.
I just wanted to double check.
Yeah. Now that's 2023.
Right.
Right.
Your life may have been different in 2023. Maybe, weren't you doing some like tennis court project that might have an impact on your budget if you're appropriating extra money that year to do something that's not gonna be there the next year. So that's just a point in time, which may,
That figure also includes water, sewer, garbage.
No, those enterprise funds would be outside of that. It would probably be general fund, entitlement share, and I'm not sure what else might be included in that.
Okay, I'm just going
Yeah.
to go with general fund for right now.
Yeah,
That's-
general fund would be less, so probably general fund and entitlement share. Yeah.
Never mind. Nope.
You're not yelling at me?
Not yet.
All right. Now I don't remember what I was saying. I had a
I'm
thought.
looking, Choteau was
Oh.
30%.
30%. There we go. So anyway, so we've got some more research on our end, trying to wrestle this down and maybe come up with some model templates that might be a starting point for a lot of, so each jurisdiction isn't making it up from scratch, right? We can start with something and take bits and pieces from all these different contracts. So anyway, that's yet to come. But in that conversation you had too about, maybe this could be a year contract. It doesn't need to be a 5-year, but maybe it's a year contract while we do some more research and come back in another year and have another conversation that might have a little bit tighter sideboards than what we're operating with today. if that helps.
I will also say that when we started this conversation, kind of the research piece, I was really hesitant to come up with any kind of model. He's laughing. I was more than a little hesitant. The problem is we cannot ask Choteau and Teton County to follow a model based on data that's done in Jordan, in Garfield County, right? If we're that apples and oranges, we don't. It doesn't matter what's happening in Jordan when we're trying to figure out what's happening in Choteau, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I am kind of on principle hesitant to give a this is the 50th percentile because each community is so different that it is wholly dependent on those unique factors.
For example, I always get a kick. And this is just for context. We run a listserv for all the municipal clerks in the state, and they ask lots of questions. Very active. It's a little community that they chat with each other and share ideas and support each other, and sharing chicken ordinances back and forth, right? So it's like recipes, but it's chicken ordinances. Anyway, I always get a kick when somebody sends out an email on the listserv saying, hey, what are you charging for your base rate and your water rate per 1,000 gallons? And they're trying to crowdsource the cost, so they're trying to see, and it's like, that really doesn't matter, because those numbers for the water rates, base rate and your cost per 1,000 gallons, is dependent upon your system.
Mm-hmm.
Depreciation and replacement of that system, operating costs for the system, maintenance, and debt service. So it is a unique number specific to your community. So by crowdsourcing it, it doesn't give you any idea of whether your rates are appropriate or not, because your rates are dependent on your community. And that's kind of what you're saying, right? Is that we want to make sure that we're looking at what's going on in this community, and this is the appropriate summation of what makes sense in that community. So, having said that, yeah. So what we have is, I think we'll transition to kind of the meat of this conversation. You ready for that?
Yeah.
There's decision points, and with any contract, and a lot of it is trying to figure out when there's a gap or daylight between each of the positions. You say, this is what works for us, this is what works for us, and it's different. Then you've got to start figuring out, well, how do we find some common ground? And I think there's going to be some of that going on here. There's certain things I think are going to be easy to say, yep, we agree on that, we agree on this, we agree on this. It's these other things that we don't. And so that's the conversation. How do we work it out to where we can get to a point where we can find some compromise, which compromise means I'm going to have to give a little bit, and you're going to have to give a little bit. I would like to think that we can find a win-win, but sometimes in these situations it's going to be more binary, and win-wins may not be the case unless we can find creative solutions to the situation. So
Could we run through the buckets and just get a sense of
I was going to start from the back and go forward.
Okay.
Okay, so we made a list. It's not comprehensive, but it's generally what we find in these contracts.
And can I get like
Yeah.
a thumbs up here, thumbs down kind of a deal?
Yeah, or if there's heartburn on these particular issues that we need to delve into.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, I just want to get an overall sense of where we're at for an agreement versus we need to have some in-depth.
So we have like 9 or 10 different these points, right? So
Okay, who doesn't have a green marker?
Okay.
it's probably in my bag.
We left it at tech.
Probably.
All right, so so renegotiation triggers, right? Often a contract will say, hey, if at any point one side or the other is unhappy, we can trigger a renegotiation, or that we want to step away from this, right? So oftentimes in a contract it's built in, hey, we entered this contract, how do we get out of the contract? In the interim between the length of the contract, right? So if you have a 5-year contract, how do we want to get out of it at 3 years, right? What's the process? So I think in both of the old contract and the new contract both has a provision in there about how do we engage in this conversation, either to renegotiate or to exit. Does either party have any problem with how that's currently stated, or in principle that you're happy with?
The 90 days notice, that works.
Does that work for?
Well, I think we set that up because in the original contract it was a rollover kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's a different,
And I think if we're doing like a 1-year contract, or do we really need an out clause on a 1-year contract?
Wouldn't hurt.
I mean, I think it's a good thing to have. One thing that this whole discussion has shown is that extreme situations come up and things happen. And so having everything in black and white is a good idea, because then if the worst happens, we have a process for it.
Okay, that's fair.
So those
I'm hoping it
renegotiations.
doesn't come to that.
Me too.
So renegotiation triggers deal with, with like set number of years for the contract, right? And this, and it sounds like 1 year, we're okay with that for the.
At this time, 1 year,
Yep.
I think is
And then-
what I favor.
Okay, we're trying it on, seeing how, and I like to say all the time, is a lot of things that we do in government, it's an experiment.
Yep.
We,
Well, especially law enforcement, emergency stuff.
Yep.
It's like asking the editor of the Choteau-Teton that it's gonna take her how many hours to do a story 2 months from now.
yeah,
You just don't know. You might be on something 5 minutes, you might be on it 5 months. And so that in and of itself makes it a non-exact science, so to speak.
yeah. So it's all, so this contract, in a way, what you're saying is, we're gonna experiment on this, and we're gonna come back in a year, and we're gonna look back and evaluate, how did that work? And you're gonna probably nail it on some things, and some things like, oh, let's
Tweak it.
tweak it, right? We're always seeking that improvement to make it better. All right,
Question.
go ahead, Josh.
With this, Keith, are we starting it as far as like fiscal year?
I would propose, the
that
July's still here,
Yeah.
just for another, what,
Few hours.
10 hours or
Coming
so. But, so, that being said, my goal would be to come up with an agreement that would be fiscal year, July 1 to June 30.
Yeah,
Because our budgets usually
Versus-
aren't.
Well, I mean versus data signature.
Right.
And the bottom line is if this, what we've been doing has been okay, but not for you,
Yeah.
not for me. You can't budget on a month-to-month basis,
No.
not knowing where you're at. So
Yeah.
the deal is you gotta have that number ahead of time. So my goal is for this current fiscal year, to have an agreement hammered out today, and we know where we stand.
Yeah.
Pending approval of the city council and the county commission.
And we still have time within the budget, right? Your final adoption of the budget's gonna be sometime in September.
So we don't even open our public hearing until August
Yeah.
19th.
They've gotta be into the state sometime in August, if I
Yeah.
remember right.
So the way it worked, yeah,
Yeah.
So,
although you're adopting a budget in September, you've been spending since July 1,
Yeah.
so it's,
Yep.
welcome to, or, this is Montana. That's how we do our budgeting here. All right, liability and indemnification, right? And I think that's language that's already in there, but is there any
I
tension?
think similar to what we had in the previous. And
Yeah.
I think
that
seems to have
was
worked.
fine.
Yep.
Where you're indemnifying each other, and there's liability, who's responsible for what? Like this says, the city's not responsible for you doing your job, that's what we've contracted.
Or the
so you'll take that
liabilities
on.
there involved,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And that, the indemnification's there. All right, so that's not, I think that's probably an easy one. Facilities, equipment, workspace, vehicles, uniforms, all that was spelled out in the previous contract. There isn't any hiccups or any points of discussion or clarification on that. Same wording.
So, yeah.
Fines and revenue from fines. And so this is always a fun one to see in the different contracts. Some will state in the contract that all tickets will be written into justice court, and the fines will be remitted to the county. That comes as part of the compensation. Others will say all the fines and tickets will be written into municipal court, and the fines will stay with the municipality. Or that's written in municipal court, and all those fines will be transferred to the county. You can decide how you want to slice and dice that, but it is, in the contracts where it's not explicit on how that relationship is going to flow, it becomes an issue of contention later on, when all tickets, when there is an expectation that we're going to generate a little revenue on the municipal side, but all tickets by the sheriff's department written into justice court, and they don't see a dime of that. And there wasn't ever a conversation about it. So it's easier to have the conversation up front and just agree, yeah, we're okay with that, and then it's written in. And I can't remember in yours, I've read so many of them.
I think it
So
went,
historically, I think it went to the
City court.
City court,
Yeah.
but since we've
September,
not had a
Sep-
contract.
September 1st, when the contract was done,
It's on.
everything started going to justice.
That's
what I thought,
So,
yep.
We didn't have the authority to cite into city court at that
Okay.
point.
Right, because without something written, it's just happening, it's happening in that big bubble,
Yeah.
even though it's happening in the smaller bubble.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, go ahead. So the language, or if it's not in there, I can't remember which of the ones I was reading, if it's not in there, I would encourage to have that clarity to say, this is how
I
that'll
don't have the
work.
old contract with me, I don't think.
I'm
looking at the old one right now.
The old one?
You're looking at the old one? Okay, I'll go find the new one.
Oh, he's got the new one in his hand. It doesn't have fines outlined in there.
There's the new one. So that might be something, and if it was in the old contract, maybe just cutting and pasting that language into the new one.
I would agree with that.
Just so there's clarity
However-
on it.
Yeah, however it was written in the previous contract.
Okay.
And
I don't think it was in the previous
And it
contract.
may not, because like I said, I've read like a dozen of these over the last 2 days, so.
Yeah, because I went through that
Okay.
section by section.
So that might be helpful, to just draft some language. What I like to see as well is whatever the practice is now, and if it's working, then let's codify that in the contract.
Right at the moment, nothing's going into city court, other than
Right.
city ordinance things.
Yeah.
And those have been minimal.
And previously it was, so I think, yeah,
Like
whatever you're
a
doing.
speeder through town or a blown stop sign or whatever here in town was cited into Choteau City Court.
Okay.
It would still be in Fairfield and Dutton are the city court, so I would like to keep those all kind of the same.
Yeah.
So the status quo has been, until September 1st, was that everything that
Cited.
happened in the city was cited
Cited
into the city. Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a conversation that probably, I'm not sure what Judge Rasmussen or whomever
Conversation I had with him was he'd be happy to see him split up again.
Mhm.
And that's fine, I got no issue with it, as long as he's in the loop and the city prosecutor's in the same loop too, so that's understood
Okay.
by everyone.
Good. Had a thought, I forgot.
Are you writing that down, Josh?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then payment cycle, I think you were set up where it was a July and January payment, so it was a biannual. Is that still working for everybody?
Because that was when taxes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's
Yep.
fine.
You pay in May and in
Yep.
November, and then you can remit the
yep.
Yeah.
invoice. So if that still works, we'll keep that the same. Let's do special events. And I think there's been some back and forth a little bit on that, and so it's some in their contracts will spell out specific events, some will not. And so I think there's been some discussion on language, whether they want to have that or whatever. So I guess we'll throw that out for special events. How would you like to see that roll out?
Historically, trying to go to the city and go, okay, we got this, we're expecting this many people. I'm gonna spend 2 days trying to figure out how to present this.
Yeah.
And to the tune of, and I don't think it's appropriate. I've got 33 plus years involved in these sort of activities and whatnot, and that I think it's just let us take care of it.
Which I think is what your response was
Yeah.
in the contract.
letter,
It's just,
yeah, it's like it's
So
not
that
something
language
that
in the
we
new
need to-
contract, just take it out.
Just get rid of
Well,
that.
Yeah.
and I look at that though, because like there's some events we do. I think some of these groups that are putting these events on should be taking care of their own security on those
Well, and they do to
things.
some degree.
And that's-
but the bottom line, like with the rodeo on the 4th of July, the Legion Jerry did a great job in putting together a plan of security for the rodeo, and it looked great to me, and I signed off on it, and it was fine. And thank the Lord that nothing drastic happened,
Yeah.
so we do appreciate that, and Jerry did a good job, so.
Good.
What if we amended it to more of an oversight, then you guys are required to staff those things? Because like I said, I think we ought to put,
What are you saying?
I guess, yeah.
Like-
I guess. I'm
like with the
fine.
Legion, where they came to you with the safety deal,
Mm-hmm.
and they took care of their security, but with your all's approval and oversight.
So you're saying
So
that
it's,
the sheriff would take
case-by-case
care
basis.
of special event coverage unless the entity running the special event came to the sheriff with a plan to run it themselves?
And the state requires them to do that. If
Right.
they're-
Yeah.
if- Like the rodeo, the Legion, it's their liquor license that they're selling beer on
Then they
at the
have to-
rodeo, and they need approval to
Right.
be able to do that. And until they showed me a plan that they could handle whatever was gonna come up, I wasn't gonna approve it. So-
But if an entity is not doing something like alcohol,
They're not doing things like alcohol, there's usually no problem.
Like the like the pockets.
It's an unusual one that I think Josh is.
It's that crazy art on the green that gets wild.
Yeah.
You know, you're still
Those-
doing that or
I
not.
tell you what, the duck races, you know.
It's
Oh,
like
there's
a radar
alcohol
checking for
races,
speeding
maybe I know
ducks,
it.
Yeah.
for motorized ducks.
It's the Easter egg hunt. I watch those kids run all over each other.
So-
Yeah,
so-
the egg hunt, yeah.
So it sounds to me, Josh, like what we're wanting or what's in here is already mostly covered by state statute and what the state requires of people who are providing their own security.
You know, like if it's a street dance, like this year, the Legion, the street dance, everything they did was within their footprint of their liquor license, which was inside the building, so to speak. They were selling beer through that window on the side, but that's still within their footprint of their
Mhm.
liquor license, so they didn't need any permissions to do that. So they just did their thing, and it was their business.
Yeah.
But if like the Antler Bar, we're gonna have a band out in the alley, and they were gonna have a little stand selling beer out behind the bar, that would require permissions. So,
So,
but
just for my clarity, in the case of, say, the rodeo, sheriff's office does what you do and make sure everybody's safe, and then does that get billed back to the city, or is
No.
that part of?
That's all part of the contract.
Okay, okay.
It seems simpler. I know there's been some that we've read and talked with them that they pull out special events and the city, so the sheriff was charging for special events, a separate amount, which, not a fan. And so the city created a mechanism that those that were hosted, like, say, the Legion would then say, okay, then in order for you to get the permit from the city, you would have to pay the, whatever that cost was. And then they didn't like that, so they went to the sheriff and said, I don't want to pay that. And they said, don't. So then they didn't, and the city was stuck on the hook. So so it's all a big mess in those.
Yeah.
So I like what you're doing here. It's cleaner, it's clear. This is what we do. Let us do our thing. It's part of the overall contract.
I think I would still like it spelled out that special events, are included in the contract, and maybe put in there if an entity wishes to provide their own security, then they have to go through the proper permitting process.
well, there's no state statute that addresses that per se.
Right.
Is it just with the liquor license?
It's
in order for them to-
connected to their liquor license if there's
Requires them to
an
get
event.
permission from you.
But I guess my deal is it's an event. I guess if we get something to where there's years ago we had concerts where 5,000 people hit
Right.
town on the night of the 3rd. Those were good times.
Oh, yeah.
There was all kinds of stuff happening.
Wiley Justice
But,
up here.
since the boxing matches and the midget wrestling and the concerts all kind of ended, our nights of the 3rds have tamed immensely.
Mhm.
And it's gotten to be that family oriented.
And I know Chamber of Commerce was talking about bringing back some events and festivals and that kind of stuff.
Well, and
So
that, maybe
that would
those
be
are those
stuff.
kind of things we maybe need to have a discussion and.
So then on that annual, so if next
Yeah,
year, depending on what's
yeah.
coming up, there it
Well,
might be another point of
those
conversation.
types of things I would encourage the chamber into, you don't put something like this together in 2 months. You know a year ahead of time, because that's how busy, if it's a band or whatever, that's how busy they are. You schedule this a year in advance, and gives us plenty of time to discuss it.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at section 5, special event coverage, and it says those special events held within city limits shall not be included in the scope of services or compensation outlined in this agreement. So does that need to be changed?
Yes.
You're looking at the old one?
The new one,
Proposed one.
yeah.
The part you just marked out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's gonna be easier language to where you're not calling out special events at this point, and that maybe for the next year, and it could be revisited based on if things are gonna change, but it sounds like
Well,
you could even, not even call out special events at all, that's just part of the contract, that regardless of what you do, we'll be here to provide the service.
like 2007, was it, that Willie Nelson played here?
Yep.
At the rodeo ground?
Yep.
I sought help from Cascade County.
Mhm.
They sent a crew up.
Mutual aid,
Mutual aid thing, and it didn't cost my office a dime, God bless them.
yep.
And it didn't cost the city any money either, so, which is
Free
which is
concert for
great.
them.
Yeah.
I worked that concert, no, it wasn't.
That's what we get to do every year on the 4th of July, Stewart.
Yeah, I have a very good, anyway. Yeah.
All right, so you think, so I guess somebody's got to either delete or come up with some proposed language to put.
I just think
in the draft.
the special events, barring anything tremendous, is part of the sheriff.
Just part of the.
Part of the standard.
Just standard.
You good with that?
Law enforcement service.
Yep, okay.
So it sounds like, is section 5 going away then?
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, enforcement, some will make the distinction on what things that we're gonna be enforcing. We're gonna do this, but not this, and they list out those things. So enforcement on certain municipal ordinances and who's responsible for that. I have thoughts, but I'll just kind of throw that out there. I'm trying to think if there was a section of that. So, one of some contracts will explicitly say that the sheriff will not enforce any municipal ordinances, which then, for us, we're wondering, well, then what would be the city, because we have a duty to do that, and we're contracting to provide, anyway, so it's one of those things that, and I can't remember what your language was here. Some say we will enforce all of it, some will say we won't do that, and I can't remember where you fit on
So
that.
as stands, section 6 says,
Is that
the
what it is?
responsibility for enforcement of all Choteau municipal code and ordinances shall be fully transferred from the Teton County Sheriff's Office to the city of Choteau.
And I think you had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, and fireworks issues, they're not an issue until after midnight or the holiday's over. And curfews are kind of the same thing. The city doesn't have people out, and I don't know if they want to call people out at those times when we're already
No,
out.
thank you.
Well, I'm just saying that, and so as far as those curfew, fireworks, noise stuff, those are all weekend night activities that we get the complaints on, and we've handled them all along, and we are not opposed to continuing that practice.
Okay.
Like the noise things, we identify who the part players are, and we provide those to the city attorney, and then she takes it from there.
Okay.
That's what I propose, that we would continue that practice. As far as fireworks, we've cited, I don't think we had any this year.
No, the fireworks
That
were
we
pretty good
cited.
this year.
Yeah, well, and it wasn't bad. And then, i.e. noise ordinances, that's everything, and fireworks is noise ordinance by design, but any other things, we identify the parties and the circumstances and provide that information to the city attorney.
And I think this also presents an opportunity for, in an ongoing conversation, if there are certain things that are on the books. I'm not proud of it, but I remember back in 2004 or whenever it was when I was here that we passed that 5-mile-an-hour speed limit in the alleys.
No.
Don't know if that's still an issue or not. I think it was a
Occasionally.
response. And so some of those things that you have on the books that may or may not be maybe the issue that caused that ordinance to go into place has now moved.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
I still want to see more tickets written for expectorating on the sidewalk.
I'll get you a ticket book.
So I think it's going through and looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are our ordinances?
And I don't have it in here, but I actually had the deputy clerk go through and she identified which ordinances don't match up with state code.
Yeah.
And so the process is then finding out if they need to be different from state code or if they're things that we need to have you enforce.
Well,
Because they're unique to Choteau. And I think there was one that was, and then there's, animals. And that's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Well, I say that because there are certain things that you might say, is this still relevant? Is this still something that our community expects us to
Right.
do? Or was it a response to an issue at the time that issue is no longer there? The other thing is to look at is could we do just as well shifting this ordinance from being a criminal ordinance to a civil ordinance? Right? So like an example of a civil ordinance is you have an ordinance about height of vegetation in yards. It's not because you really want the whole town to look like a golf course, but it's a public safety issue because it's a fire hazard. If we let 1 yard go crazy, sparks, and we could burn down half the town, and the wind doesn't blow here, right? It's probably stopped since I moved, but so that's a real concern. So there's a public safety concern there. But is that criminal, or should it be a civil thing? And I think typically those are civil. And so as you go through and look at those ordinances, and you start saying, well, is this a civil or criminal? Because there could be some things that are now criminal that you're likely not going to enforce, and maybe it should be shifted over to civil. And it gives you a chance to revisit that. Is this still an issue in our community or not? So those are just things that we encourage. This is a good conversation, right? It's an experiment, and as you're seeing, there are certain things. It's like there's an expectation for us to do. It's like I'm not sure that this would be appropriate, or it's not the best use of our time. You're saying, well, is this really an issue still? And it just clarifies some of those things. Does that make sense?
Yep.
As you look at that and look at those, and I can't imagine you'd have a whole lot of. I remember noise ordinance, the 5 mile an hour speed limit, parking. Some of those things that are city.
the parking thing is, we did that for a while, and I think, Mayor Dunkel maybe.
Yep.
No, I think it was Jay.
All
Jay
kinds
was
of
like-
grief
Yep.
after that. We put little friendly notices on those.
Right.
Yep.
in there. And it was like the world was coming to an end.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I was getting calls, and they were getting calls.
They were getting people to just walk into the city office and scream
Mhm.
at our, yeah.
Yeah, so
And those are, then we've worked with other.
choose your battles is
Yes.
what I guess my.
And think about it. Those are great opportunities for an education campaign leading up to the enforcement. We've had some cities that they developed a 6-month communication education campaign within the community because their parking was like a jackstraw mess. And enough complaints for the citizens, like, all right, this is going to raise the level. And so they put mailers out, door hangers. They spent an effort, and they said, look, July 1, it's going to happen. And it was remarkable
Yeah.
how the streets tightened up on June 29th.
And I guess
So,
what I see with our streets were built for back in the day when, cars used to be bigger than they are now, but
Yeah.
if you got vehicles parked on both sides of the avenue or the street, there's not enough room for 2 cars to meet.
Yeah.
And so, how do you fix that?
Yeah.
Make the boulevards the street now? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just, that's not a cheap fix.
and those are conversations that you can have,
No,
right? This
no.
is the part that
Put a
we're
8.5
facilitating the
wide
conversation.
Camper trailer parked there too, and now it's
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
Especially when they store it with the slide out.
Yeah. So it's part of that facilitating the conversation in your community, saying, what is it you want? And how do we want to make our community look? And what's important to us? And then are we willing to support this as a community by, it's a whole lot easier if we all as a community facilitate a conversation, agree this is how we want our streets to look, then we go out and do it. And then we're not relying upon the sheriff to go out and enforce it, but we just have agreed this is it just makes things much cheaper to operate if we're not having to spend a lot of energy on enforcement. But it's part of that conversation, right? So,
Well, and I
and if
think
people don't
that-
care, then, yeah, free for all, Wild West.
This is a great prompt to have those conversations within a timeline, because as a city, as a council, you can always have another fire that's more important, that's gonna have to be bumped up on the agenda for that, but if you're operating under a 1-year contract, this is a great reason to prioritize that, so that when you come back next year and you're saying, okay, sheriff's office, here's what we're thinking, these are the things that we don't wanna spend time and invest resources in paying for, and we didn't do a knee-jerk reaction, we had a year to think about it. So I think this is actually a really helpful tool for the city to be operating under 1 year. So what I'm hearing is code enforcement, section 6, that, is this true that right now for the next year, we do not want to transfer that all over to the city?
I think we can make it our monthly report, but I don't think we have to, on a case-by-case basis, let you know immediately. We can refer it to the city attorney,
Right.
and maybe if you want CCU on it or whatever your pleasure is.
It'd be good to CC me on it so I can keep on top of
That's the
him.
committee, it'd be 7.
No, you have 10, go back.
Oh, that's it.
Oh, we
Gotta
got you.
figure out my
Roman
my
numerals,
Roman
man.
numerals.
This part here. So enforcement. So it's not necessarily, I'm
I
not
don't
concerned
remember,
so
I
much
don't-
about the communication,
it's
but
not
the
in
enforcement
there.
of. So we're gonna, for the next year, continue with the sheriff's office providing enforcement instead of hiring a code compliance officer. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, caveat, we might still need to do something for animal control. Is that?
That's, yes.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do so.
Yeah, and that is honestly something that I've talked to Mayor Tacky about as well, is looking at sharing somebody between the 3 municipalities, because,
But I would propose that person be a city employee or whatever, you make a animal control district between your communities or whatever.
right,
But,
yep,
yeah,
yeah,
that would be great for us,
yeah,
you know. if you have-
And if you did pursue the code enforcement, it could be on those codes that are on the civil side.
yeah.
It wouldn't be a criminal thing, that how do we, who's gonna enforce the sidewalk ordinance and all those other, the vegetation height ordinances, the tree, tree limbs in the right of way, all that stuff that, until someone complains, nothing's done about it, which is fine.
So I just want to say that I shouldn't do what previous mayors have done and just go grab the dog or cut the tree, right?
Oh, you listen to us!
That's up to you. Stand out of that one.
That's trespassing on both accounts, right? So-
Yeah, well, I'm gonna get
So
some.
do we need to change the language on that
Yeah.
to they'll take care of the criminal?
I think, yeah, number 6,
Civil.
you probably need to wordsmith number 6 on the
Yeah.
contract. And so, yeah, that'll be one of the areas I think someone can take a stab at it, and then between the two parties, you can make edits until you find an agreeable language.
Oh, Mary, you just made my heart happy. I love when people actually listen.
All right.
Well, in your non-legal opinion.
In my
as far as-
non-legal opinion, consult your attorney. Yes.
All right, so I think, before we get to hours of service and cost of service, level of service, right? So hours of service being total number of hours the municipality contract within the county and performance of duties of the municipal police force. And so I think in the previous one, you had said, it was stated there'll be 24 hours of coverage, but it's going to be on duty at 84 hours and 84 hours of
84 hours a
on-call.
week, yeah.
84 hours a week, on-call, 84 hours a week, that would be on duty. So that's how it's separated, and was it similarly split out in the new language in the new contract? I don't recall.
No.
I don't think
It was
it
different.
wasn't defined.
So whether you want to have that level of specificity, or you'd rather just have a general.
Under section 4, or, yeah.
Yeah, scope of services.
So, what I did was take our hours of service, see, July and August last year was still under the contract.
Okay.
And so I took from September 1st, when the contract ended, to June 1st, when we put a lot of it on the city.
Yep.
And so I eliminated July and August and June of this year. And so I averaged out the number of hours of service that we billed for, and it came out to like 317 hours
A month?
a month. Okay? And I think the old contract called for about 336, if I'm not mistaken.
So right in there. Huh?
And so that was without patrol. We were just responding to calls for service, and we were not patrolling Choteau.
Okay.
So add 20 hours a week, so it comes to about 1,040 hours a year. And so you're gonna add about another 87 hours a month on top of that. So we're looking about 400 hours a month,
Okay.
give or take. And so that's kind of what I'm basing my figures on.
Okay. Hold on, we gotta do math.
What I did
Yep.
is
Yeah, so 336.
365.25 divided by 7 times.
Yeah, 336 is
52.
what, 84?
Divided by
hours.
7?
It's 12 hours
Yeah,
a day.
that gives you a number of weeks.
Yes.
Oh, wait, I
52.
can't do it that
400 would be an
way.
additional, what is that?
That's your total weeks a month, a year.
Right, times,
52.18
64
Right.
hours. So
And-
divide 64.
times 20.
yeah, I'm just making sure I understand what I'm doing. Okay? And so then that times,
Well, it comes to 1,044 is what
Yeah.
it rounds off to.
got it.
So that would, if my math is right, would that go from 84 hours a week to 86 hours a week?
Probably. Well, but the 1,044 divided by
Oh, that's
52.
I got there in a different way.
20.1.
So
20.1. Okay.
20.07. So
So 20,
20.1.
and that's what you have here, is 20 hours a week is what,
Mhm.
So when I first looked at the difference between the old contract and the new contract, my first thought was 84 to 20, that's a big jump. But they were defined differently.
Yeah.
On duty included all those other things that you
So,
listed out.
so
as
what
other
can happen
subsections.
is, we get something going on and we just finished up a case last month. The guy got sentenced. And we probably had 4,000 hours on that case over the course of 4 years. And he just got sentenced to 100 years in prison and 25 suspended, so.
I had a question asked of me, day before yesterday. So when you have a case that occurs outside the city limits, but then you spend time researching it and you have to research it in the city, those are still billed as county hours?
That's county case.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So the one you just finished up because it happened, because the offenses happened to people who were in the city
People
at
were
the time.
victimized in Choteau,
Right.
two girls in Choteau.
Yep, okay.
Now, if you want to I can really confuse you. So, what I've told our people is that, let's say, I'm going to use a for instance here. For instance, we had a DUI out at Rex's parking lot. And so the deputy received a RAD report, and so went there, did his thing, field sobriety tests, and then, okay, placing you under arrest, they go into the jail, they do the SFSTs and the implied consent and everything a policeman would have done in that case is city time. Okay, now it comes time to book him into jail. He's now a county officer.
Right.
Those are county hours. Because we do the detention, we have to do that by law. And so now the deputy finishes booking the guy in, goes back to sit down and do his report, he's back on city time.
Right,
And that's why this isn't an exact science.
Yeah.
right.
Is
Yeah.
because- And then in the meantime, somebody, while he's doing his report, somebody's come in the front door, 5 different people for 10 minutes at a time. And some of those may be city things, some of them may be county things, but how do you
and
keep
that's,
track
and
of
that's
that?
where I think a lot of the contracts don't try to.
You can't, and if
Parse
people-
that out, it gets
you
too.
can't- You'd spend all your time counting
Yeah.
minutes and never getting anything done.
It would sound like a university policy if I might.
So-
Did I
Yeah.
say
You were
that
live
out?
streaming, sir.
So I guess my question on that then, so like, you figure approximately 400 hours a month, but is there 10 or 20% that might be overflow because of the situations you just talked about, where maybe, and I'm not saying this, but maybe they forgot to, I don't want to say flip off, but they forgot to switch between county and city time. I mean, is there a little
Or
give there?
he might be working on a county report and somebody from city comes in and uses up 20 minutes, so.
Right.
It's not an exact science, but it comes out to an average, I think.
My question on
In
the,
those hours does not include me, that I help
Right.
them.
Yeah.
So we kind of figure that offsets. Like the case he was just talking about, the 4,000, I have 1,000 hours into that case that the city was never charged for.
Right.
So we kind of hope that just kind of balances.
Okay.
well, my question to you, like the DUI you were talking about, if it happens within the city, then the city's paying for the whole thing.
Well, if you had a police department, your officer would be dealing with that.
Well, yeah.
That's how I look at it.
And that's, I guess, I'm wondering if there shouldn't be a little bit of an offset, because it's also still within the county too. Like if you catch him at the city limit sign, and Mark clicks his lights on before the sign,
Well,
and he pulls over inside the city.
And that's one of those-
But still, that's, if it's coming into town, that same drunk person, had he not done that, would be driving through your community.
Well, and I understand that too,
Yeah.
but
And
as
so-
as a taxpayer on that side of it,
If you want to if you want to get that nitpicky with that
well,
type of
that's,
deal,
I'm just talking about like
we can
$400
only do
a
so
month.
much.
Okay.
And we have streamlined it immensely in the last year.
Well, and that's why I mean with like the $400 a month or the 400 hours a month. What if we did like a percentage split with like a portion of this is the city's responsibility for that part of it, and this part of it's the county for those calls.
So,
Because if
Councilmember-
it's not a municipal city criminal code, it's one of those things like I could see if it was municipal code they're breaking, whether it's criminal or
If you had a police
civil.
department, your policeman would be handling that. Because the city of Choteau and every other incorporated city in Montana, by law, has to have a police department.
Right.
Or an interlocal agreement. So if you had a police
Yeah.
department, so if you can see if your city officer would be doing that had you had a department, that's city time. They enforce the laws just like we do.
So I had that exact same thought, especially when we were drawing this, is if you all didn't have any city officers at all, county still has to deal with that,
Hang on,
right?
Yeah.
Just hang on.
And a city police officer would do that same thing. So where's that? So I actually really like this breakout in the new one better, because what you're calling out with that sub A, the 20 hours per week of patrol, is patrolling and really focusing on municipal ordinances. So you're looking for parking and dogs and all those things, right? And included in that is the call-outs, the response, or the non-emergency and emergency calls for services, criminal investigations. So that's getting broken out in a different way. I think what you're saying, and where I was really hung up on this, is in the old contract where it said you were on duty, or on duty time for 84 hours. That's where that gets really tricky, because, well, DUI on duty, why would it be charged to the city and not the county? But if it's broken out this way, I think it gives you more flexibility for holistic coverage instead of the nitpicking. Does that track for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because I wrestled with this for weeks about, well, why does it matter that county taxpayer, whether they are on this side of that city road or on this side, why should they get charged differently based on what side of the road they live on? But if you go under this structure, they're not so much. This, I think, was a problem.
So had your city police officer arrested that same DUI, did his SFSTs, came to the jail, they did their thing, read the implied consent, we did that all the time back in the day. But when it comes time to book the guy into jail, that was the deputy's job. The city officer did not do any of that.
Right.
It was, here you go, I'm done with him, and they walk out the door.
Yeah. So having it broken out.
That's why that would be county time.
Having that broken out in here as not part of the necessarily 20 hours of routine patrol, but covering the detention facility and all of those things as part of your contract, kind of writ large.
Well, by statute, I have an obligation to provide a detention and
Right.
run it. That's county, just like coroner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a county coroner.
Yep.
And so anything that we have coroners do,
Yeah.
in town, out of town, or anywhere else, that's not city time.
Yep. And really what we're looking at is, and what Dan was talking about earlier, is the city, so not the council member, not the mayor, the city as an entity, as a body, has a responsibility to provide law enforcement. They have to have a police department, which they can name the sheriff's office as the police department now.
As of October 1st.
What's that?
As of October 1st.
As of October 1st, yes. And they have to enforce those ordinances that they have on the books to some degree inside of that jurisdiction. So what you're contracting for is to cover those two things, right? The sheriff's office would already do everything else, but they would not act as a municipal police department for 20 hours a week without a contract. They're gonna serve the county the same across the county. Is that?
Well, and also if it breaches of peace or issues with the waterway into the city police department has a 5-mile jurisdiction
Yeah.
Yep.
within 5 miles of the city, so we can throw that out there. too.
It's that, it's, what is it called, the donut of responsibility or something like
Yeah,
that?
something of that.
Yep.
degree, but-
Another way to look at this, and I want to, I think you guys are doing good trying to figure this out, because it's complicated. One way I was considering when you said in the 2017 contract that there's the on-duty and off-duty, you're still
On-call.
responding, or what is it, off?
On-call.
On-call. So on-duty and on-call. So the on-duty part is when we're actively doing the policing as a.
Well, and on duty is also investigating and.
Yeah, it's when
interviewing.
we're acting as a department and we're doing
Doing
these
law
things.
enforcement work.
And the, what is it, off-duty?
On call.
Or on-call is kind of, as we're acting like the sheriff's department. We're providing that general law enforcement,
Somebody is available 24/7.
and that's how I was also kind of separating my mind as well. So there's an argument to be made to make it, try to figure out and slice and dice and make it complicated, or just back up and say, hey, look. And I think what you've been doing is keeping track of and say, okay, when we come back to the table, generally, this is about a time we're spending doing the proactive policing as a municipal police force.
Patrolling and.
Patrolling and
Looking
doing
for
the
violations
checks and all that stuff. So we're doing the proactive policing, and then the reactive policing would be when we're on call, doing our sheriff's duties.
As you patrol, you're still reacting to other things.
Yes,
Mhm.
yep.
We can't be everywhere all the time, so.
You're just not looking for parking violations at 3 o'clock in the morning necessarily.
No, yeah.
So I don't know what helps. For me, more general is simpler, but what do we base the generality on, right? What's the basis of this?
Well, what I've been
level
going
of
by,
service.
what I've been going by is the hours of service we've been providing to the city without patrolling.
Yeah,
It has been 317 hours. You add 87 hours of
Patrolling.
patrol time a month on average. And now you're looking at roughly 400 hours a month. That's how I figured it, just common sense.
So, Sheriff, help me riddle this, because I got stuck on this for a long time.
she gets stuck in a lot of
I
things.
do. And then Dan has to listen to me rant about it over and over and over. How do you, so let's take something like the DUI. And I think this is kind of where the council member was headed. How do I know, or what would your response be to me as a city resident that I am not getting double taxed for that service, for that call out, because I live inside of the city geographic boundary, even though it was not a city ordinance violation? How do I know that that's?
Your city police department is bound to enforce state statute as well.
Yep, okay. So one of the things that I wrestled with for a long time is why should the city pay for the same service twice? And then I finally got to, well, they're not
They're not.
if you're operating as a police force, not just enforcing municipal ordinance.
Right.
Is everybody tracking on that and why that was such a hang up?
Say that one more time, Ashley.
So they're operating as a police force, and a municipal police force is obligated to enforce city, state, and federal law, right? Not enforcing municipal ordinance. So operating as a police force is broader and more holistic, all-encompassing than just enforcing municipal law.
You lost me.
Now Keith's lost.
So Okay, go
So
ahead.
your police department doesn't do just ordinances.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
They do state statute
Yes.
just like my office does.
Yes.
Mhm.
And that's where the hang-up is
The,
it feels
the
like.
difference is with the city police department, the city council and i.e. the mayor have control of that. When you contract, you give up some of that.
I-
That's the rub.
Yeah.
And so I'm elected by everybody in the county. I don't serve just the city residents of Choteau.
But that was a good point to bring up because the double taxation deal
Comes up.
floated around this town for
Well,
months.
Let me, so I think what Ashley's trying to say is if Choteau wasn't an incorporated municipality, it was just a spot like Power or Bynum where a bunch of people congregated, like, you wouldn't be charging us anymore because it's in the county.
Correct.
But because state statute says that because we're an incorporated city, we have to have a police force, you're like, okay, well, if I'm going to provide that police force, then it needs to reflect in what that group of people pays. Because there is more likely going to be a chance of violation because of that congregation. Is that?
I would say it's more about the overhead cost of operating as a police force.
I can assure you that we get way more calls for service in Choteau than we do in Bynum or Belanger.
Well, and those aren't good.
Or the option is just disincorporate.
Yeah, no.
That's a whole different ballgame. But I think to this point, kind of what, the double taxation issue is what you're paying for something different than what what you're paying for county sheriff is different than what you're paying for as a city resident for policing, and that's what the contract represents. And this is that focus.
I will throw this out there. So we have my taxable budget, my revenues from taxes was just over 900,000.
Okay.
And so the taxes from property taxes from the city of Choteau, the property taxes from the town of Fairfield and the town of Dutton, plus their contracts that they've been paying up until last September, came out to like 44% of my taxable revenues. So you have the major populace of Teton County paying less than half, and the rural property owners are paying like 56% of my revenues that
Okay.
make my office run.
Roll with me on this, Sheriff. I'm gonna need that in visual form. Okay, so we have
Should have brought that notebook, Mark.
muni taxpayers. We'll call them all of them.
So in Choteau, and I can't remember the exact, but I think it's 868 taxpayers in Choteau.
Okay,
And with that,
these are property taxes.
yes,
Okay.
property taxpayers,
I
yeah.
think I have all your drafts.
And Dutton, right?
Yeah, maybe you brought it.
I might have.
So this is maybe gonna help explain it. So everybody in Montana that owns property within the city pays a tax that goes directly into the sheriff's budget. In Choteau, that's just over $71,000, all combined.
That's individual taxpayers, collective taxes going to the sheriff's budget.
To the sheriff's budget.
Okay, 71,000.
I'm not talking city
Yep.
money, I'm not talking schools, I'm not talking anything else, but 71,000 and change.
So this was.
And so if Choteau had its own police department paying $700,000 for a police budget, or $600,000 for a police budget, they would still be paying that 71,000 directly to the county for
Yes.
my budget. And that's what people misunderstand. You can't be talking, Choteau's not out on its own little island.
Right.
Every, Conrad has a police department, their city taxpayers pay into their sheriff. Great Falls, Helena, East Helena, Fairview, Montana, any city that has a police department. Troy, Montana has a 4-man police department and their budget is $350,000. And they're about the size of Fairfield.
700 people.
700 people, and they're paying $350,000.
So,
Then they're still paying money into their county for their sheriff's office. So don't feel like you're being picked on here.
Yeah, no, and you're right, so it's the
way the law is.
It's the way the model is. And
One way to
so-
change that is go
Yeah.
to the legislature and get that changed.
Yeah,
so Sheriff, do you have rough numbers off the top of your head?
I don't.
which is good.
Is it not in what I just
So
gave you,
I don't know,
Ashley?
I can't read that fast.
Well,
But rather than, because I don't think it's productive to try to figure out dollar for dollar and all that stuff, because
No.
the way this system works is not designed for me to get exactly the value
60.
out of government that I put into it.
Right.
It's never been designed that way, it's never operated that way. So it may be a non-starter even but to just recognize in big picture that if you were to have a police department, you're paying money, if you're in an interlocal agreement with the county, you're paying money. Either way, you're paying money, you have a duty
And if
for
it's-
law enforcement.
The difference, what we're looking at here, folks, is.
Oh, here, this is a more,
The two options are
Thank you, sir.
contract,
Take a look at the three of
security
those.
company that they were talking about coming in from Great Falls. That's not a legal solution. They're not a law enforcement agency. And it requires a law enforcement agency, which is the city police department or the sheriff's office. And so, basically what would happen is the two options that Choteau has, or Fairfield or Dutton or any other community has, is they can create their own police department, which I think Conrad's budget for their police department is like between $600,000 and $700,000.
678 is the number that sticks in my head.
I won't argue with you.
Yeah.
Or they can contract with the sheriff's office for virtually less than half of that.
I think, I'm not gonna correct you because I don't know the number off the top of my head.
You know,
It's
so.
not the number, it's the point.
So some communities choose, and Fort Benton just recently shifted from having their own PD
And
to
that,
Yeah.
the
that was
sheriff.
because they couldn't get people to apply.
Yeah, and so there's some reasons why these relationships exist, and there's others that they enjoy having their own police department because it gives them more say over how policing is done in their community.
And Conrad is one of them.
Yep. They know what they're paying more than they could.
Yeah,
But
but that's what they want, and that's, you gotta respect that.
Like I say, it's a snowflake. Each community is unique and different based on what they want
Here you got
in their
Troy,
community.
Montana with 700 people has their own police department. It's what
As
they
is
want.
Bridger, Fairview, these are all super small towns. Darby, Troy, they're all in that 700 people range, and they have a minimum of three, a police chief and 2 officers. But those officers are revolving door,
Yep.
unless they're like, I'm committed to being here, I love being here, and I'm not moving, and then you've got an officer, good and bad. If they're a crappy officer, you got him forever.
What these small agencies become is a training ground for the bigger agencies, and
Yep.
we
Yep.
are experiencing that ourselves.
And
Havers
even-
says that they're the farm team for Great Falls.
You
Yeah.
said Haver does?
Havert,
Yep.
they serve out their 3-year commitment, and then they move to Great Falls.
Yep.
And even if they have a municipal police department, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting the same level of coverage that they would if they contracted with the county. Meaning it's potentially less. I'm thinking
Depends on the
about
contract, right?
Little Bridger, they have on their police department webpage, we don't have enough people to patrol, so if you have an issue, just come see us. And all I can picture is like, hey, this dude tried to steal my dog, so we gotta go talk to the cops. Like, that's kind of the level, and they have their own police department, but they aren't necessarily getting 20 hours of patrol out of that department, right? So this is really helpful for me. I don't know if it's helpful for anybody else to see that rural taxpayers of that 900,000 are paying 500,000.
And that's with, and those numbers up above are all the city and town tax dollars that are coming my way are less than half or less than what the rural taxpayers.
Sure.
But we might get past their house once a year, maybe.
Yeah. So if you live in the city of Choteau, you, as collective residents in the city of Choteau, you're paying on your county tax dollars $71,000 towards county sheriff's law enforcement services. And then the city is contracting, or was contracting in this case, for $181,000. And what the city is paying for is to satisfy that obligation that they must have a municipal police force and to patrol for those local laws, those ordinances that are only enforceable inside the city's jurisdiction. Right.
And all laws.
And on top of all laws, yeah,
They
so
they
there's,
still have an obligation to do all the laws. They're not just out there looking for stray dogs.
Right.
Or noise ordinances or fireworks. They're doing law enforcement in addition.
so you
They're
have to have
doing
a
that
police
both
department that does all things policey,
Yeah.
right? And you have to be able to enforce those laws, otherwise why do we make laws as a city council? So what you're paying for as a Choteau resident here is that general law enforcement countywide, and here is specifically those two things. It's not necessarily for the citizens here, although by derivative it is. It's for the city to meet its statutory obligations. Are we tracking on that? Okay.
Yeah, it's part of, well, the law says for municipalities, I'll actually read it to you. The municipality has a legislative powers to preserve the peace and order and secure freedom from dangerous and noxious activities, secure and promote general public health and welfare. So that's one of the responsibilities as a city in general, right? So that's where we say, okay, how do we do that? We're going to create a police department, we're going to have a fire department, we're going to have good clean water, right? It kind of permeates. These are the purposes why we, as a community, said we're going to live in close proximity. There's some risk with that. So we're going to create government to ensure that we manage that risk, and we're going to create institutions and structures to do that. So we have a police department. County is not, it's a different ball of wax, but they have this duty to provide this general, similarly, this general support and I guess for the sheriff, I love the old language. And I think they wrote this language back when Butte was Butte. Not what it was today, but the duties of the sheriff: preserve the peace, arrest and take before the nearest magistrate and examine for examination all persons who attempt to commit or have committed public offenses, prevent and suppress all affrays. That's a good old-timey word, which means, you know, a union having a demonstration back in the day. Breaches of the peace, riots and insurrections that may come to the sheriff's knowledge, and perform the duties of a humane officer within the county with reference to protections of animals. And it goes on about attending court and having the jail. It has 12 different things. It says perform other duties that are required by law, take charge and supervise search and rescue. There's a lot on the plate of the sheriff, which is different than the plate for the municipality. So there's that general expectation for public safety that's aligned with the sheriff. That's why we have everyone pay into that pot. There's also an expectation when we come in close proximity, neighbors, there's conflict, we're going to have a police department to do specific law enforcement there. So there's two different things here. Whether you have your own police department or you contract it out, there's still this level of support we need within our municipality. And that's what this agreement is. The question is how much are we paying and what are we getting for that payment, right? So it's the amount of service, hours of service, and for what cost, right? And so sheriff is making the point that, hey, our costs are going up, and so you're at numbers that you've come up. We get to the numbers here in a minute. We're at this level, and the city's like, yeah, but we're at this level, right? And so this is where the crux of this conversation comes in is, so how do we find some agreement, right? And some of that gap between what the city feels they're capable of paying, given their financial resources, and all the other obligations they have beyond just law enforcement. And the county's challenge to provide law enforcement for the whole county and for these municipalities. And there creates this gap, and some of that I would attribute to that 25 years effect of 1510 420 having the impact on budgets on both sides. And so over time, that gap has become exacerbated. I think the legislature's, like I said, has now fixed that moving forward, but that's moving forward. And it doesn't fix what's the last 25 years that's got us here. So really the crux of the conversation now is, the numbers we were using, I remember this 400 hours is where we're at now. It was about 336, but now the reality is 400. And that's what the sheriff, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're saying that's what the level of service you're kind of needing right now, and what you're able to provide is about 400 hours of service.
Yeah, we can do it. I mean, you know, some months might be 350 and some months might be 500, but you know, generally I think we are capable of handling 400 hours and still meet our obligations with the other communities and the rest of the county.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, like you said, it's not an exact science and it's not a minute by minute. We're not not an attorney's office that opens one file at a time. and every 6 minutes it's a cha-ching and away we go. So
And it's an inexact science, for one, what we're trying to figure out here. And my other point, I lost it. Oh, and we're never going to find a one-for-one. The system, it's impossible to have a one-for-one, that for every hour so there's a meter we hit, like in a taxi, we hit the meter, it's like, okay, I'm in city time, hit it again, I'm on county time. That's not the system, and so a lot of these contracts is sitting back saying, okay, how do we get what we want, right? We're trying to throw the 300 or the 400 hours out there, and what does that cost, right? And it could be, like, I think you've spent some time trying to calculate, what does that cost per hour, right? And some have said, right, we know what the cost per hour is, but we still, that 400 hours is still gonna hit us, so how can we get the money to support us in that effort? So I think that's kind of where we're at, is trying to marry those two things. For the 400 hours, what is it that Choteau can pay for that, and is it this county saying, yep, we'll take that, or maybe we'll have to narrow our number down to where we can match that more, because we have other obligations.
That's where
That's the
I
crux
come
of
to have this annual meeting where we can go, okay, over the last year, we've had these activities, and they'll get them on a monthly basis, but we can outline this many activities we put in over the course of the year. This was a monthly total of hours of this. Here's where we're at. Maybe we're over, maybe we're under. And the committee that meets can come to an agreement annually on where we are, or where we think it's going,
Yeah.
and then make those adjustments accordingly.
Is that committee still active?
Your law?
It's just proposed. committee.
Propose.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The law enforcement committee met last week,
Okay.
and the one gentleman, Greg Maurer, and he's a studious person, which I appreciate. And he said, his question was, what's a fair rate? And that's a really good question.
It is.
That's why I called you in May.
I know. And like I said, it's like a snowflake, and this is where some, and I think some have said, we can chase that bandit, right, and try to figure what that is. Or others just sit back and say, it's not worth the effort. Let's just say, what's the number? What's the numbers that we can get to, and hope that we can deliver at that level? So, and you can go whichever direction you want. I'm not trying to dissuade you from saying, here's our dollars per hour for law enforcement, which is not, it's a legitimate way to approach it. Here's the number, so we'll just throw the hour out, or the cost per hour that you were using earlier, 60 or 65, or what be $60. So $60 is that cost for law enforcement in Teton County. If you're gonna get an hour worth of the sheriff's department's time, is $60. If you put that against the 400 hours, it's being said that that's what, the level of service, you do the math and say, okay, that gives us a number. Now, that number might be in excess of what the city can pay, given all the other things. So it's like, well, this is what the number is here, this is what we can pay, now that creates a gap. And then we got to talk about, well, do we want to modify the number? Do we want to say, well, that's a starting point, now let's throw that 65 out and just say, now how do we find that happy medium? That's kind of the crux of this conversation moving forward, is how do we find consensus in compromising to the point where we can say, yeah, that's, we'll go up, we'll come down, and we'll find that sweet spot. That's the result of a negotiation, which is the most, it's not the best term, but the most barbaric way of coming to agreements. It's just, what am I willing to come down to, what are you willing to go up to, and that's the number. Versus, and this is what the creativity comes in, is like, how do we find some other creative solutions to this problem? Right? What are some other things we can do to reduce costs, to increase revenue, and which is a whole other conversation. But that conversation isn't going to help us on the creative side for moving forward with this budget year. That's what gives you the framework to start for the next year, saying, okay, how do we be creative? If Dutton and Fairfield had the same conversation, that there's a gap, right? Again, we can blame it on 1510 420, but now we're starting to see a general concern that we have outstripped our resources within the county to provide the service, the level of service that the citizens have come to enjoy, which may frame out a different conversation, either within those jurisdictions or countywide. How do we fix this? And this is the conversation we'll always have throughout, right? If it's law enforcement, it's fire protection, it's all those things we're saying, yeah. How do we provide the same level of service with the limited resources we have? And either we modify our expectations or we increase our revenue. And that could look in a variety of different ways. And who's going to pay, whether it's in the city, whether it's countywide, whether we create larger districts and patchwork districts around the county. There's a variety of ways you can do that. But I think that's for a future conversation to have. Once you agree on something for this budget year, get this year going, and then have a commitment to get to the table and say, all right, what are all of our options and how do we go about, pursuing them? And we can help you with some of those options, what they might look like. There's, the more we think about it, there's a lot of different options we can tag into, beyond, I think, what we had in our white paper.
Yeah.
I think we had 2, and I think there's more options we can explore.
I do have a quick question. Sheriff, that $60-ish an hour, was that like total budget divided by total FTE hours? How did you get to?
Oh, it's a whole,
All that is right here.
Yes.
it's all.
God, that was
Got a
like
minute?
2 months ago
Do-
I looked at that, huh?
Do you want to take
I-
a minute and look through it and we
Again,
can,
yes.
we can take a
It's,
I do.
it's short uniforms, it's
it's
like vacation
Yeah.
time,
Yes,
it's
please,
overtime.
let's
Sick
it's
leave
Let's take a break.
all that
yeah,
stuff.
I gotta use the
Total-
restroom real quick.
The
So
total
changes.
cost of,
And it changes
Oh, I remember
constantly.
these
I've got,
Yeah.
a deputy, by law, the sheriffs and deputies get 1% longevity of their base salary every year. My base salary is based off of the clerk and recorders. And so, every year that that deputy puts in, a year of service, he gets a 1% pay raise. And that's usually in the neighborhood of $500 a year, not a big deal. But over the course of 10 of us, there's 1%, 1%. I got 1 in October, I think I got 1 or 2 in December, I got 1 in January, I got 2 in March, and it just kind of goes from there. So it's my costs, or the county's costs, I'm sorry, of keeping these guys on the road changes monthly. And so our deal is what I did is I put everything together, and Stewart, I'm sure, has that too, but
I think that's this.
yeah, and so what I came out to was, per hour of deputy service is like $59.85 an hour. And that's with sick leave, vacation,
Check
not
overtime.
counting overtime.
Not counting.
That's not
Is
counting
it
overtime.
uniform expense, I think?
It included uniform expense, it included retirement and all the FICA stuff. And then, but it does not include, like I said, overtime. It does not include our expenses for IT services, which,
60,000.
God, in 1998, IT services was not a thing.
It was an abacus.
Yeah,
Oh my
That's how
gosh.
they
Can we
did.
take a break for a few minutes?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, let's take just a few minutes and get up and stretch your legs and move around and get some blood flow back.
But do remember that the live stream is still on.
So
Yes.
not Mike.
Everybody talks.
Please just remember that.
No, I encourage.
You were right.
Okay, good, yeah.
We're not out of here now.
You hanging in there, Joe?
Time is ticking.
Well, we're hoping to be done by 3:30. This part here.
This part here, and I've got a proposal.
Okay. So if you want to, when we get back, if you want to float that, I think we just need something to be thrown on the table that we can start chewing on. And I think we've set the stage enough. Now let's get to, here's some numbers and let's start looking
And
at it.
I think as far as the contract itself goes,
And if we,
I'm fine with what we've got so far. I got no issue.
if we can get to say this is what we can work out for this year, and then continue the conversation throughout the year.
What I proposed is I'll share this with you. I've been debating it with my sheriff.
I have some good thoughts.
With us or with
Stuff I
them?
put together. I've already talked to them. But here's what, obviously July and August last year, and then here's the,
So Chris, we'll let you talk.
till June 1st. And that, basically,
Yeah, I remember when he was buying it, because he and I talked about it, he was telling me, he's like, I can tell you what I'm getting, and I'm like, yeah. I want one.
So by FICA and all that, it comes out to cost the county $1.24 for
My dad's got a gaming PC for their.
So actually, this $3.24
She said
Before,
she
because
could.
the grandkids
Yeah.
come to-
Well, she's always had to come out for graphics part, that's why she's.
Just for that, just to do the CAD design. Yeah,
Yeah, the city.
and it's liquid
Right,
cool.
no, oh, you know,
City
the
had-
time
Wow.
zones
Yeah.
are just.
A lot of money for
Appropriated
that.
300.
Shit.
Better for you guys.
Until
they get their feet on
That's a whole different issue. That's my neighbor that's got the entire street.
Actually, I got the numbers actually calculated to 321.
And I did tell her to call.
My neighbor with a rooster killed his today.
Well,
I can
Mine
hear it.
still has a
there would
rooster
still
now,
be
because I wasn't
space in
gonna
the
do it,
next year
because
for
you're gonna have blood
conversation
pressure.
about the impacts
I know
of
that,
420 and how it's
I heard the rooster
all
crow.
of the
You know, I
jurisdictions.
heard him
I
start
think-
to crow.
If I don't take her garage door open,
So I'm pretty sure that rooster dead.
It
Didn't leave.
Well, you know,
Number
I,
of dollar agreement.
Well, you'll walk
Put
with
together.
these birds.
what we're gonna do then, I think on number 9.
This contract
They've got a lot of
will
people.
abide by.
Well, and you want to kill them young, otherwise they don't taste good.
Well,
If the city and
they're gonna have
Yeah.
to do something, they're gonna say. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's,
Yeah.
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 And that's what you build in, you know, when you fill out an agreement, then you have to pass the two little girls, whatever the
I've got
CPI is.
2 spots right here from when I was 7.
You can do that.
They'll get you.
We had a nasty
You know,
rooster.
I'll have to tell you about Sammy's little boy. Yeah, I look at,
So if you
like
had
3
your
Forks, right?
final.
Not Phoenix. When I was here, I was looking at my peer community.
He was out in the
Columbus
yard.
and 2 Forks and Fort Bend were all about the same, at the time, we're all about the same population.
Came into the shop and
Like 3 Forks has a much higher contract. But that's why I want to say, okay, they're paying more, but then I started looking at, well, what do they have for revenue? They're like $1.2 million revenue, and these guys are.
Recreation nowadays.
So 3 Forks and same with Columbus, but they have industry, they have industry in those communities,
You need a
which
little biology.
makes so Columbus still has their own police
Still
department.
remember the story.
What was,
And I asked Lottie
can you see
about
what
this.
Columbus
Lottie
is?
Long, at 4 years old, had a turkey.
But, because they have a PD, and I got their numbers for the PD, and you see what 3 Forks is paying. But their
At 4 years old, she.
ratio of budget, their budget is
Sucks to
high.
be a turkey,
They're paying
Yeah.
$330.
Well,
They also have
I'm
a
hoping
$1.2,
there's something
$1.3
there.
million budget, where these folks are like
They're
$600,000, $700,000. So that's
They're
a
not worried
bigger
about it.
portion. And that's the.
Who do you want?
3 Forks.
Density.
So their 3 Forks is 1.06, 1 million.
On the 6 court?
Oh, Columbus.
They love
So scroll down.
That's their
And,
police budget?
That's their, no,
They
that's
also like
their
cabbage.
Total fund.
total fund
Total fund.
appropriate.
Yeah.
Show those is like, in this one
Yeah.
comparison, same year was
Have you ever seen
770
Oh, but they eat
to
that.
1
They'll-
million.
they'll
Columbus,
pick a line in
they're,
They're not
And then they'll just pick the
3.4.
seeds out and they'll leave.
yeah,
the skin.
Columbus, $3.4 million budget.
Can the
And
kids
then
go and get some apples
they
from the tree?
were paying $988,000 for their PD.
Because I built a little
They have
deal
$3
that you
million
can stick
budget.
apples on it, you stick it down.
Population, 19 chips.
Yeah.
So again, that's the
Your
total money, they have
Did
some,
she ever get
an industry in town
that,
that, we don't even want to talk about Cold Strip. Or West Yellowstone has an $8 million budget, and so they have, so it's,
Well, I've got some.
so that's where I'm trying to figure out.
But anyway, did
Is,
did
you're
Leanne
not
ever
wrong
call
in
you?
your calculations.
She was
The
gonna
challenge
try,
is
I don't
going
know if
back
she
to
ever
say,
mailed
these
it.
municipalities and say, well, how do we, what's your
Well,
ability there?
I'll let them know when they get
This
back.
is the cost, what's your ability to pay? And that's what
No,
creates
not
that.
at all.
And then how do we solve
Yeah,
it?
Usually it's over a dead body.
Yeah, my turn.
What are we gonna do?
Oh, man. Okay, I'll let them know.
Tell them to go in the morning.
Never
Before the
questions
launch.
about how are we gonna generate revenue to feed the demand.
Upright and ventilate, no that.
Focusing on.
Yeah. Never touch the park, never touch the park.
But getting to this point has not been easy.
No.
Depends, so that, and that's
And
what's.
I learned a lot how to handle it differently.
Well, yeah, and I'll just throw that out there, is that, this is my concern about
Get through that.
try to interpret what.
Yes, I think, and
said.
when I started
That's why
looking
I'm
at it,
trying
I
to
remember
think of
because
what
it was just.
So we might have the same population, so you can't use population. because
I threw them all into
that's-
ChatGPT and had it distill them all down.
So we're looking at the derivatives, so the ability
I
to
love it
pay.
so much. If I was
So
to
that,
put down where I
but then that probably puts you, I bet if we compare, Sweetgrass, or Sweetwater County's budget, Palladium mine, to Teton County's budget, it's a completely, or Dellwo County and 3 Forks. Fort Benton and Choteau,
Remind
Choteau
you.
County and Choteau and Teton County.
Yeah. Clean this up.
Think about
Still they don't
those
five
ratios
sentences.
and Fort Benton.
Crazy. And then you can tell it, like, do it, but in minor ways. So it
Right.
can,
Is that what-
like, not sound fake.
Yeah.
What are you looking
Fort
for?
Benton.
Sure, you're
Oh,
still
this is
reading
wrong.
the crazies?
We gotta
I haven't even
scroll.
started
Is
yet.
that what it-
Could you give me another one?
Yeah, Fort Benton, you said, is,
No.
they
I
have
don't know what
272,
Yeah.
272,000 Fort Benton, in Choteau County, and they have a 1.4 million.
Isn't that amazing? And then, the drop-stone dinner on Tuesday.
That's what, but again, this is just a point in time, that might be they had a big,
And the whole
a big project, a big grant, see, they got all that. So this is where we've got to look.
Well, but it's also land values. You look at
They
also did all the streets down there too.
but Choteau County also you have almost like 50%.
You can see that.
So like we'd sell ours for 1,200, theirs would be 1,600, 1,800, 2,400.
So we probably have to look at like a 5-year run, what's the average total funds appropriated? We're just trying to think through, how do we create a spreadsheet that
Grab a bunch of
you can share around, so you're looking at apples and apples instead of.
Is your house all done?
It's not a one.
And everybody was pretty.
No, it's
One
very
minute, then we'll
complicated.
come back
It's
together.
very complicated. We're
Yes,
looking to
ma'am.
hire
Thank you.
research, it's like just responded to try to.
If you're not actually.
And then the other thing.
I have
all
court orders
on
on
that.
that.
It's really complicated. Really, I guess for the purpose of this is that ability.
I would come in and take my hat and throw it in the house.
No, but that's what
If
that is, right?
it came back, I was gonna pick the corn up and that's the shop.
I'll go back.
I'm gonna go to the shop and my shop has no shower.
What we can pay, and then there's a gap, and so this is where.
I knew where my man came.
And I don't know what, so just the numbers
But I love
start going.
I'll tell you.
Is that,
And they
does
give
that
me
help?
11 grand service.
No, I get it, we get it, and I don't, yeah, not trying to be on anyone's side.
But, I'm just trying to figure out every location right next to me. Kind of my second.
You take like the town of Cascade,
272,000.
Oh,
And I take all the garbage out of my garden and I throw it over the fence. So it goes nuts. But I found online where you put apples.
Different.
Tomatoes.
oh, sure.
Yeah.
And cut it.
And that's what, right, so they
And then
can
you stick the apples down on the
Doesn't have-
wall.
doesn't have much-
Do you know how many tickets they've written on Cascade in the last 18
When I
months?
get back from the lake,
Two.
I say, hey, kids,
Two.
let's go pick them out.
You know how many they wrote in Great Falls?
Over 2,300. Over 2,300.
All right, let's do this.
All right,
Yeah.
I may have to take
It's,
All right,
I was, yeah, ever since getting a desk job, I don't have the bladder I used to.
yeah. Too much Diet Coke.
wait till you get old.
I'm kind of concerned, actually.
Melody's sitting over there.
No, I'm good.
All right, so it seems like we're swirling around, and I think it's probably time for us to put a number on the table to start the conversation. So, so a starting point, and in our conversation during the break, and this is the challenge we find is the cost of providing the service and the ability to pay, right? And so this is one of our efforts of looking at what the total funds appropriated as a function of the ability to pay for law enforcement. Right, so a community that has total funds appropriated, of a similar sized community that's getting $1.4 million total funds appropriated, has a greater ability to pay than one that's getting $700,000.
564,000 is our tax revenue for 25, 26.
So that's your general tax revenue, and then you got your entitlement share tacked on top of that.
Which is, what,
What's it, 600 and something?
yeah,
640, 630?
I didn't get that number yet because we didn't get it in yet.
Yeah.
So, but I know our general fund revenue is 564,000.
So this is what creates the art of this process, right? If it was something you just plug into a spreadsheet and that's what it is, it's what it is. But so now we can do that now that the conversation is if there's that gap between, right? So how do we have that conversation? How do we find that equal or agreed upon? So anyway, there's levers you can pull, right? We can, if we're committed to hours and a particular rate that gives us this number, And if we're all committed to the hour or the rate, then it's a matter of changing those hours to get to a number that we can agree on. Then the question is for the folks in Choteau, it's like, are we okay with having that level of service, right? And if not, what are our solutions? So that creates a long-term conversation about how do we, if that amount of service is no longer acceptable to us, but it's what we can afford, then how do we change that equation, right? And so that's how we've set, that's how this conversation has been set up, which would probably be different if we had a different community. They have a different set of circumstances, different value set that they're using to have this conversation. So, does that all make sense, or was it just gibberish? I didn't look around.
All made sense to me.
Okay.
I tuned out like 4 minutes ago, sorry.
Yeah, just thinking about getting home in a half an hour. So, I don't know, Sheriff, do you want to start?
I guess is where I'm at, is I would, you know, we've been charging the city $65 an hour for a man, car, everything, the admin part of it, all inclusive for $65 an hour. I don't think that's unreasonable. I think that's fair. And in the course of averaging 400 hours a month, comes to about $316,000, and that's what I think is a firm offer on his contract.
So I think for me,
The city has it, as I understand it, reading the paper, the city has it in the budget presently.
with quite a few changes to our general fund and where that money will come from, and that is, honestly, that's a 1-year fix. Like, that is not sustainable for the city.
I understand that.
So
That pretty well kills any emergency fund we would have, so.
Well, it takes about 30% out of our emergency fund.
It's not an emergency fund, it's
You're
your
right.
cash carryover.
It's our, you're
Which is a
right.
whole different.
Yep.
This is, so the cash carryover, both the city and the county are required to maintain a cash carryover. Since you only get paid twice a year, November and May, that money doesn't last the whole, so you have that cash reserve to carry you
Right.
over until your next payday. Say you gotta buy a big road grader in October, and we don't have enough money, so
Gets you through the revenue
that gives
cycle.
you.
Yep.
gets you through the revenue. So when you dip into your cash reserves, then it makes you less stable as any government. And so it's a big deal. I'll just say that it's a big deal when you dip into cash reserves. It's like anybody, if I'm putting $50 away a month in my savings account, and then I go out and blow $5,000 of it, how long is it gonna take me to get that $50 a month to get that built back up again?
Right.
So it creates a more vulnerable scenario. So I just wanna make clear that everybody understands, and I'm sure you're always trying to balance that cash reserve, and the state puts a cap on the county at 30%, doesn't it? So you're capped at 30% cash reserves of the total budget, and the municipalities have the ability to go up to 50%. I can't remember if the
Is
legislature
it
changed that.
still 50%?
For you folks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So just know that we're dipping into that cash reserve, which makes you a little less stable, rather than emergent. It's not a rainy day fund. It's not a rainy day fund. This is our operations, but
It's not just cash sitting there, it has to
Yeah.
get you through the revenue cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess, so 316 is your kind of firm offer, but I guess what I look at is, so the city's taxes are already generating $71,000. 316 minus 71,000 is $245,000. So I think I would be comfortable as the city, and Josh, you can, if you're not comfortable with this, speak up, but I would offer, my counter would be 250,000.
Anything less than 316, the county will be subsidizing the contract, and I'm
Well-
not willing to do that.
And the issue with it is, I think, the jump all at once, because we're going from the last contract, what we were looking at an hour was $37.70 an hour to now $65 an hour. So it's a $27.30 an hour jump. So we went from, basically we're increasing another 46% over what our last contract was all at once. That's a huge jump in the city.
Yep.
And
So one way to look at this, I'm just doing some quick math here, bear with me. 250, you said 250, is, so I hear what you're saying, like that, so that we're subsidizing, assuming that we stay at the same service
Unless you
level.
change the contract.
Yeah, if we say the same service level of 400 hours for 250, then one would argue, you know, if we're okay, if we all agree on the $65, then the county would be doing that. It could be that to get to the 250, we're down to 320 hours from 400 hours. So I'm looking to the sheriff, thinking, well, can we do what you need to do? Can we provide the service without inadvertently subsidizing the city? And so anyway, so I'll just throw that to you.
My concern is this: we've gotten by for the last year doing minimal proactive enforcement, and it is starting to show. That's going to catch up with us if we're not spending the hours on proactive patrol. We're going to spend it on reactive investigations. Just yesterday, we had 4 or 5 counts of vandalism around town that occurred within 24 hours before that. And we're seeing more of this kind of stuff all the time. If we're out there, a lot of this might be curbed. So it's one of those pay now or pay later. How do you want to do it? But I think it's time for us to get back in the car and be seen on these streets and get busy, because it's gonna catch up with us in an adverse way if we don't. I just know it's gonna happen.
Commissioner, what are your thoughts on this?
As far as,
Do you see kind of short-term versus long-term? As somebody who represents both the city citizens and the county citizens, is there somewhere in the middle that would make sense, or are you thinking that, no, we need to stay at that top end because that's the minimum?
let me rephrase that. I don't feel personally that the county is going to subsidize the city of Choteau for law enforcement.
Okay.
So I would ask, so a year ago, the number was thrown out there, it was never official, there was no contract drafted, but that going forward with the old contract, the county would have been okay with $195,000.
We've done a lot of homework since then.
To give
Keith has
the
looked at
city
a
an
lot of costs.
opportunity to,
And the offer was to phase in where we were covering our costs, and that was rebuffed at that meeting.
Okay,
So my present opinion is we will not subsidize the city of Choteau.
Okay.
I still think it's a better option to go with the contract than their own police department, but that is up to the city council. It's not up to me.
Okay. And Councilman, you were talking about the jump being one of the hard things for the council right now?
Just the cost itself, but the jump, we went from 2 years ago to now, we're jumping $27 an hour.
which is 73%.
Yeah.
But the $27 an hour did not include a lot of the things Keith's talking about. That's just including the cost of a deputy. That's not the IT, that's not the computers, that's not Keith and I's and Clint's salaries. So that's where we're kind of willing to go, hey, we're kind of eating that and trying to help out the city already.
we're paying over $900 a month on just tech support.
And is any portion of that included in that $65 an hour?
No.
No.
So I remember you saying something, Keith, in a conversation that we had, that's why the 71,000 doesn't factor in, is because that is kind of the charge for tech support and just.
How I see that $71,000 being, like I said, communities that have police departments, they're paying that same tax that Choteau is.
Mhm.
So when their officer with their department that represents them arrests that man for DUI, they got someplace to take him. They aren't stuck with him at their office trying to figure out, now what do I do? He comes to the county jail, the lights are on, the heat is on, the phones are working, the jail is available, and he deposits that guy with the deputy in the jail. That's where some of that money pays for that.
It's apples and oranges. The 71,000, hypothetically, you make your own police department, you still pay the 71,000.
Yeah.
So it's apples and oranges, and if you try to take that 71,000 off your law enforcement contract, that doesn't make any sense to me. Because it's apples and oranges, it's two different situations.
That's different monies. And that's part of the confusion, or why this double tax thing came out, is people think it's all going to the same vat. No, that 71,000 comes to the sheriff. That other money that goes to the city is for whatever the city wants to use it for. That's not earmarked for the sheriff, that is earmarked for the city. It's their decision on what to do with that money.
Of the discretion.
So as far as like those fees and stuff for IT, if we theoretically put up our own police department, you guys still have to pay those fees anyway, correct?
So would you.
Well, no, I'm asking from your side though.
That'd be new fees for you.
So what Josh is saying is if we totally separated everything from the sheriff's department, we did our own dispatch, we did our own IT, everything, your cost would still be the $900 a month in IT.
Yeah.
That's the question he's
It
asking.
would, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So I'm still a little bit stuck on, just for clarity, there was an offer at one time to phase into the new rates, and that is no longer an offer because it was rebuffed at one time? Is
It
that,
was rebuffed a year ago.
okay. And is that still that's the case?
That is the case.
Okay.
That was resoundingly no.
Was that based
Not
on
to
the
go back.
council as a whole, or based on personalities that were in seats at the time?
I'd say personalities at the time,
I would agree.
but nobody from the council said, hey, wait a minute.
Okay.
I would say that we as the council, as part of the rest of the council, weren't made aware that it was
Even
an option until it had gone by.
Well, it was in an open meeting with one of these microphones, and you, I don't know if you were there or not.
I was not at that one because it was on a Wednesday night, and I
Well,
repeatedly
anyhow,
told the former,
It
sorry.
was all public.
Yep.
And so
recorded.
I can't help that.
I know.
So I'm getting the sense that that offer is no longer on the table because of tensions that were created because of the rejection of it. Is that right?
Well, I think you also mentioned that a lot of research was done.
Keith did all the research, but we decided we needed to know exactly what it costs us to provide those services.
Sure.
The first offer was just based off the pre-existing contract, and what was it, 6% that you figured in?
It was actually continue the contract as it would have been for another year, and then it would have been, I have it right here as a matter of fact.
6% increases after that.
And then it
to
was
eventually
the
make us whole.
3% COLA that whatever the COLA was is
Yeah,
kind of what we
yeah.
were raising it by, as a possibility of it was just an estimate.
Yep.
At the time. And so I just used a 3% COLA increase and then a 5% on top of that.
Yeah.
And then just have that arc kind of do one of these things
Sure.
until we get to where we need to be. Whether it took 5 years or 15 years, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it gave the city an opportunity to figure out what they wanted to do. Here it is right here. This was what I had
To
kind
plan
of
for
figured
that.
out and
Plan for
whatnot.
that.
But that was
And I think this is part of the sneaky ramifications of 1510-420, right? There was never an accounting for that in the last 25 years, so now we can't go off of these graduals because there's this massive gap that we need to fill.
Right.
Okay.
Like our
Water rates that
But
you don't raise.
my whole goal was to give the city opportunity to get a year to figure out
Sure.
how they're gonna do this.
Yep. Okay.
And that's just, that 3% could be 2, one could be 1, could be 6. Whatever, depending
Yeah.
on the year, but,
Plus the standard increase across time. Okay.
right.
So what I'm hearing is that the county is really only willing to consider two things. The current proposal at 16,000, or we're out.
That'd be up to the board.
Sheriff, do you feel like you could, in good faith, take a modified version of this that has basically much bigger than 5% as a plan to them and that they would consider it?
I guess I'd look at it, but I
Okay.
wouldn't commit to anything.
The reality is, if we do that, the other taxpayers in the county are subsidizing the taxpayers in Choteau. As we've looked at it, we went through a whole deal with the double taxation.
Yep.
And the city at one point didn't think that they needed to do anything, that it was just a county issue, and we had to supply all the law enforcement. We've been through all that.
So,
And that's kind of where we get back to that last one on our ground rules thing. Because that's,
here's kind of.
I understand where you're coming from on that, Joe, because I do understand that there's a gap there. But saying that the 316 or nothing, it kind of puts us in a bind where we don't have the opportunity to raise the funds without harming the city of Choteau, the
I get-
people in the city of Choteau.
My question on that is, so next year, if it has to be 420 hours,
I guess that's where my goal is to do everything I can to make sure it stays at the 400 hours a month. No, you can't control it 100%, but you can sure kind of work things out where, try and do our best. We have streamlined some of our things we will or will not deal with. A lot of it is the civil aspect of it involving parenting plans and the, marriages and this sort of stuff. Is hey, we're not attorneys. You need to call your attorney. And we used to put the time in and lend an ear, and yeah, that's kind of over.
Yeah.
And so we've taken those steps, but you can't not cut everything out, because then it gets to be where it's going to cost you later if you don't pay it now. And so, but we do our best to try and keep it at 400 hours.
Okay, so I'm hearing that the county, the sheriff's office is committed to maintaining that minimum level. And ideally, you would like to be able to provide more services, but right now the money's not
provide all the
there.
services that we need, but
Yep.
it just, this is the 2025,
Yep.
and every agency in Montana that I've communicated with has had to take those same steps, and
Yep.
like it or not.
Yep, that's just where we're at, okay. And city, I'm hearing from both of you that it's not that you're not willing to be a part of this and to pay what you need to, but there is a transition period that needs to happen.
I am not sure how in future years we would, like if we did the 300, well, okay, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
And if, so we had a 2.11% increase, we had a $4,000 increase in our general fund revenue this year. Even if it's 4%, so that doubles to $8,000, we're not putting in as much, like our all I can think of is surplus, because that's what it's called at school.
your reserve,
Reserve, thank you.
got you.
Our reserves continue to dwindle. And, I mean, long-term, we could do this for 3 years and our reserves would be gone.
So you're in the same boat on the other side. They
Yep.
have cut everything they possibly can and still maintain adequate service, and you're saying, we're pushing every penny we have, and there's just not enough in the coffers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And that, I guess that was the challenge that we're all facing, is this, the cost of the service and the ability to pay. And so if we're looking at a 1-year contract, and as I said earlier, that gives you a year then to try to figure out, right? So if we can find some solution that doesn't jeopardize anybody, right? And may have to stretch you, it may have to compromise a little bit on the county side to say, look, give us a year to figure out what this solution might look like because it may, if it's a revenue thing, how do we have the conversation with the taxpayers and have that discussion? What do we want and how are we going to pay for it? And what that might look like. Because again, this is probably going to have a similar conversation, I'm assuming, with Dutton and with, I don't know with Fairfield. And so it may raise the awareness throughout the whole county. So what do we do about this? And what are our options? And how do we address this? And I think there's a variety of options. I'm intrigued by what Shelby does. Shelby in Toole County with their Department of Public Safety.
Do you know the whole story on that?
Well, how it's executed, an opportunity.
I have commissioner's notes from Toole County back in 1980. And I don't have them with me.
Yeah.
But in 1980, they created this City-County Protective Services Committee and combined the services of the sheriff. And at that time, it was set up so that the city of Shelby would pay 44% of the sheriff's budget.
40%.
44.
Was it 44?
44.
Okay.
And you know in 1980 what that number was?
Well,
380,000. I'll take that in a heartbeat.
yeah.
I'll take their 1980.
Yeah.
I wish 380,000 was 44% of my budget.
Yeah,
Well-
no, but of the sheriff's budget. So
yeah.
that and that was 45 years ago.
Yeah. So yes, that is
So-
fact. But I think it's interesting to explore the conversation because what we're talking about. Because I think you brought up an interesting point. Is that whether if you branched off on your own to create your own police department, you're still going to have to pay the IT, all that. Right? So there's something. But what you're doing is saying, hey, we want you to share. So in my mind, what I'm hearing is we want to have an equitable share. What's the proportion of the municipal demand on the sheriff's, on the law enforcement organization? Which that's language to me that is a Department of Public Safety where we're partnerships in this, and it's just a different conversation.
It is.
And we'll let
It's
those
not
folks have a whole different.
It's not a
They have
bad-
oil and gas too. Then
They have a lot of oil and gas too. And,
So,
and
but
the
I think
fact
it's
of the matter
an
is,
interesting conversation for
They are
everyone to be
having
for
the
you.
same problems we are.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they are. And
I talked to the sheriff. And he
it's
says,
on.
you
It's
know,
always on the cusp whether it's going to sustain itself or not. But it would be a thing to explore for you to really say, how do we share in our expenses, all of our expenses, not just the enforcement side of it, right? Because there's a whole lot of expenses.
Yeah.
And how do we have that conversation, which might, and if you can demonstrate, again, this is part of the conversation, can we demonstrate a level of competency of law enforcement countywide with this different paradigm, and that might instill confidence within the voters, say, yeah, we want that. It brings everybody along in the conversation.
I do know, with like Toole County's instance, the whole county, I think, is just over 5,000 people. Well, 3,500 of them are in Shelby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a little different.
It is a
It's
little
a different
different.
scenario, and I think it's just part of that exploration and say, you know, what would it look like here, how would it work, and if it doesn't, that's fine. You have the options you have now, but I think it's part of that exploration over the next year to get to a point and say, you know, what do we want to do?
Okay,
So-
I'm mathing, and you can hate this math, but tell me if this is true. So if, I just threw in a number, so if Choteau had 215,000, divide that by, what's 12 times 65, whatever that is.
$780.
Okay. That would get you to, what, is I have 275 hours, is that right?
So 275 times 65 is what we're doing?
Times 12.
It's 214,500.
Okay. So 275, that would be a month. So that means, right now, patrol is at 20 hours a week. That would go to 68, so would that be 17 hours a week?
I think so. So 320 hours is 250.
320 hours a month?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, 249.6.
Okay.
Because I took 80% of
336 hours is 262.80.
So let's do the 320. So that would reduce it 80 hours a month from the 400, right?
We're putting that much time in now without patrolling.
That's just doing basic investigation.
That's just total response.
Doing as little as possible.
That's just response. That's not patrol. That's not us out riding the streets.
So if the reality is that's what the town can afford, then basically you're at the level of, we just can't have patrols at 215,000.
Well,
Or
250,000.
so July of 24 through the end of June of 25.
Uh-huh.
Taking June is, like I said, a very unsavory position I put Mayor Merja in. And then the contract was still on, for July and August of 24. So
Yep.
with those numbers, they paid us at $65 an hour. Without patrolling, they paid us just under $227,000 this
Okay.
last year.
Mhm.
And so they want 20 hours a week of patrol and they'll pay us $13,000 more.
So,
My calculations at 20 hours a week at $65 an hour is about over $67,000.
Sure.
So they want us to do $67,000 worth of patrol for 13.
so just go with me. I'm not saying it's a good idea and I'm not saying it's good practice, but if the city can afford 250, that means that you're providing response service and no patrol.
Mhm. And that's gonna catch up with us. And then what do we do?
Right.
Then we'll be
I
back
think
up,
that's
then
where
we'll be
we
back
were
up to,
on the part of the conversation
to
where we're talking
500
about
hours.
whose responsibility is what.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where we were with that.
And that's the question. So it will catch up with you. You're going to see an increase.
I'm trying to consider the long term here.
Absolutely.
Like I said, we're seeing the vandalisms. It's
Yep.
time for school to start.
Yep.
Because this is kind of a norm.
Yeah.
Kids get bored and they get vandalizing.
Yep.
Yeah, and I see, and so that's what and rightly so, you're thinking long-term for administering your duties of maintaining law and order.
Right.
And that's where you're looking, and they're looking, rightly so, right? Neither of you are wrong in this, but your perspective is like, but we can't dip too deep into our cash reserves because it's gonna put us in a real financial long-term, so that would be irresponsible there. So this is the challenge, right? This is the challenge, is that how do we balance those two things when we're stuck? And I don't know, and this is where you guys have got to figure out, we've got a year, can we come to an agreement on something?
Well, we had a year ago.
Right, well, and the contract you're looking at now for this next year, right? So for this next year contract, what is it gonna look like? And this is the problem, it's pay now, pay later, and if we pay now, we won't have anything to pay
Yeah,
later.
we can't pay later.
And so we're in this challenging situation. So this is where, we can bring you to the precipice, but you guys gotta figure out, how do we hold hands, or are we gonna jump? Or hold hands and jump.
So my question, Joe, as the commissioner, $316,000, if the city were to agree to that contract for this year, and then Keith's hours ended up being closer to 300, I mean, so we're gonna negotiate basically retroactive contracts?
Basically, what you're gonna wind up doing is paying in the arrears almost. You figure out where
Right.
we went last year and adjust next year's according to what happened last year. That is kind of how I see it.
And Joe, do you feel the same way? Yeah.
So the next contract will reflect previous
It
years.
may go up, it may go down. But
We know
Is
it's
there-
not gonna go down.
I don't know. Let me be hopeful, okay? Josh, I won't disagree with you. However, it's just a matter of,
Well, it's the thing too, that we all know,
Yes, it
if
is.
you have more money, you'll spend more money because you can get another deputy or whatever when you to keep going with more, but
I'll take some.
we're not gonna go
explanation.
down.
Anybody else want a copy of this? If
What is
they
it?
can understand my logic. Hang on to one. And that number on the right is figured at,
Thank you, sir.
the commissioners gave the employees in the county $1 an hour raise, and that went into effect June 26th.
Mhm.
And so my letter to the city was prior to that anyway. So a dollar an hour raise for an employee comes to $1.24 by the time you add
Taxes and all that.
taxes
Like,
and vacation, sick leave, and
All the
it
benefits.
comes to $1.24 an hour. So you take the 1,044 hours of patrol in addition to, that comes to times $1.24 is $6,018. So that's why this shows instead of 316,000, it's 321 and almost 322. So
That makes sense.
just so everybody understands that.
October and April, huh? And December. Yeah. You got 4 months that were almost 300 hours.
And next year it'll be 4 different months.
Oh, so it's not Halloween.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you what exactly happened that would have caused that.
Just different cases. Like yesterday, we spent,
Yeah.
just getting that, apprehending that person on that warrant. We had 30 hours into that.
Mhm.
That's right here in show. So. You never know what's gonna come up.
See, and that's why we don't want rentals in Choteau. No, I'm kidding. I'm 100% kidding.
You can thank Cascade County for that person being here. I had the marshals come help us.
Thank you very much for the removal of the first.
Go ahead, Dan. I
No,
can.
I'm just, yeah, I guess you know where the decision space is, and I'm trying to think is, do you need more time to ruminate on it, to go back, crunch numbers? What do you guys need? Or are you ready to either find something we can agree on, or go back to the drawing board, or, and I don't want to put pressure on you if you just want to ruminate on it for a bit, but.
I think I have. So June was a minimal month, right?
Yeah, and we forwarded everything that wasn't life or death to you guys. Which
Right.
caused you some heartburn.
And I want to say that was 166 hours.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark. I'll divide 10,819 by 65, you'll get how.
Hey, that's a good idea.
You'll get the number of hours.
Oops. I just. $10,819 point. Thank you.
Divided by 65.
Divided by 65. It's 166.45. And then, so July and August, those don't reflect, because those were part of the contracted hours.
Right.
Do you happen to know how many hours you spent in July and August?
I'd have to
No,
look it up.
okay,
I'm guessing it was probably well over 400.
Yeah.
okay.
Talking last July or this?
Last
A year
July
ago.
and August, yeah,
It was probably closer to 500 or 600.
okay. Was that when all the thefts were going on?
No, that was 23.
That was,
Okay, that was 23.
Or
Okay.
That might have been 22.
that was 21, I thought. We're still chasing some of those people.
Yeah,
That refuse, don't show up for court.
yeah.
They've been charged.
Do we get billed for those? No, I'm just.
Well, actually, you don't.
Good. Because if they're not in Choteau, then.
Actually, you're not.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm just processing here, so.
That's fine. It took me a minute to put this together.
Would you have up there 320, Ashley?
Mm-hmm. I was going off your map, so it's.
So. So in the 9 months that we have here, a third of them would have been under the 320 hours.
Yeah, but there I see also 328, a 380,
So that would have been
326. So that's an average.
Yeah. Would have been 400.
So if you take the 2,857, divide that by 9, that's your get 317.
Yep.
0.54.
Right, which. It isn't that I don't trust you. Sometimes I just have to do
that's
do
fine.
the math for my brain to wrap
I was
around
doing
it.
it with calculator, and I finally just turned it into Excel, so it does it for me.
Right.
Dad texted me when we were doing this because I had my daughter, so I was out on the road with her. And he's like, I'm putting everything into Excel, but I'm doing all the math on my calculator.
No!
Stop!
Why would you do that?
I finally gave up. Adding it about the third time, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just do this on Excel.
All right, 20 hours a month would work out to 240 hours a year, right? Oh, it's 20 hours a week, Stewart.
20 hours a week.
I was like, wait a minute.
You're missing 52 and something.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like it should be that much, but 20 hours a week at 65 for a year.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good part-time job.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Does the county have, do you have like SROs,
I'm sorry?
school resource officers?
No,
No.
that was something else that was kind of taken out of the equation with Choteau this year too, this
Yeah.
past year too. We didn't get involved with the school.
Have you talked, or has there been any conversation with the school district about that? Like outside of the city organization?
With the superintendent we have,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've tried to talk to all the schools, tried to see
Oh,
if
have you?
they could put up a little bit of money.
Sure, yeah.
The problem is we used to have DARE, and we used to have 13 guys in law enforcement here. We've been doing it with 9 for my 20 years I've been here. So we take one more out.
Yep.
Now we're doing it with 8,
Yeah.
and that 300 hours
Yeah.
gets worse because it's just one less guy on the street.
Right.
So until we can get more bodies,
Yep.
then maybe that is. an
Yep.
option.
Then you got Flathead County.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm
They
thinking.
have 2 guys on at any given time, and that's for the entirety of Flathead County.
But they also have police departments in Columbia Falls and Whitefish and
Does
Kalispell.
Whitefish have theirs? Somebody told me or 2 weeks ago that Whitefish doesn't have their own.
Oh,
They used to.
go.
Okay. Now, I didn't look into it.
I can't imagine.
I went to the academy with a guy.
I don't
Okay.
think they're allowed to contract for the county. I think they're a class 2 city.
That's
They
what I thought.
have to
Okay.
have no PE.
I thought they were blowing smoke, but,
At what point do we cross that threshold?
You have to go over 5,000.
Okay, so a while.
yeah.
There's room to grow.
Making sure it wasn't like 2,500 or
No,
something.
no, because, 5,000 is a class 2.
1,812.
Bite your
Oh,
own.
no, 10,000, I'm sorry, 10,000. Top, yeah, it's 10,000 because Havre is in that process right now. They're on the bubble of being a class 3, class 2.
That's what I thought, because I
Is it
didn't think.
5,000 and that's 10,000 for class
10,000 is a
1.
class 1.
10,000 is class 1.
Okay, so it is 5,000.
So 5,000 is for class 2.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back in the missile site days,
Hmm.
back in the 70s, Conrad was over 5,000.
When Glasgow was
Glasgow was
12.
something like that,
They're big, yeah.
with the base up there.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
Would you say our average hours over that 9 months was?
Would there be any
Hmm?
point in
Would you say
discussing
the average
approaching
hours
law
over
enforcement
9
like
months?
water rates and setting a base number of hours, 320 hours per month at $65 an hour, with the caveat that if it was $400 hours that month, the city would pay
In addition to.
per hour rate to
Mhm.
cover the additional
that's without
hours.
patrol.
I like
What are your thoughts on that?
I say that again?
Keith, we have a base water rate,
Mhm.
and then we pay an extra fee per 1,000 gallons of water that we
Right.
consume. If the city could do 320 hours per month at the 249,600 hours, and you guys are committed to trying to keep your hours down to 400, could the contract be written so that the city of Choteau, if it went over 320 hours, would agree to compensate the sheriff's department at $65 an hour? And if it was under $320 an hour,
That we bank those hours?
yeah, then you
Or
bank
pay-
those
pay
hours.
for what
Well,
you use?
my thought is this, and.
I know that's not as stable, but
I-
you guys seem stuck.
You know, we have an annual meeting at the end of every calendar year, so we'll just pick the third Thursday of
I think one of the
January.
things said February 15th.
Well, anyway, we'll pick a day of a month, third Thursday of January, and it's, by golly, come hell or high water, we're having this meeting. So I think what I would do is say, okay, over the course of the years, here's the total, here's the monthly hours, but here's the total, and if it comes up over 4,800, we know where we're at. If it comes in less than that, we know where we're at. And so, one month you might have 300 hours, and one month you have 500 hours, it's still gonna average out to 400 hours. And like we said before, this is not an exact science, and we can't foretell the future, or else we'd be waiting for the bad guys.
Yeah.
But that's gonna happen, it's gonna ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, we got by good last month, and this month was a wreck.
Mhm.
And so I think it would do it on an annual basis and give us an opportunity to see where we stand at the end of a year. Doing our best to keep it at 400 hours.
So I have a question, and so if we do this, if we do 316,000 and it doesn't go down, it goes up next year because it's 2025. Like, the city has 3 years before there's nothing left in the coffers.
Well, but in the meantime, the city should be figuring out how they're going to move on in the future. I don't know how much discussion there's been about options of generating the revenue to satisfy this requirement. Your two, like I said, your two options might be $316,000 to us or $690,000 for your own department. Then you can set your own rules. Just depends on what you want to pay for. To me, the right thing to do is go with that lower number, but that's your choice.
Yes, and. So that's one consideration. Special district, creating a special district is another option. Special district could also be created for something greater than, which would have to come from the commissioners, greater than the city limits, but the region, the 5-mile donut. That's another option. The other option is a county, because your cost is going up as well, right? And so your cost for all those things, which is you know,
And
your
also,
revenue's not going up with your cost, which then says, hey, whole county will be in
and so if, and I will throw this in as well, if come January 26th, we have our meeting and it's like, hey, by golly, we did good. We came in at 4,738 hours. Okay, that lets us know where we are. And so that being said, hey, at $65 an hour, that's about where we want to be. So being that 15-10-420 is the county's bound by it, the city's bound by it, whatever that changes to those laws are, there's no reason my office shouldn't be bound by that as well. And so that's fair for everybody. And so nobody is getting hooked any longer for more than what their ability to raise revenues are.
Also, just a point of clarification, Mayor, I don't think you can, even if you wanted to, you couldn't spend all 3 years because you have to have a minimum cash reserve.
Yeah, so in a year, you know, especially if we're looking at putting something on the ballot, I mean, in a year, people don't want to pay it, you know, we're right back here where we started.
That's the downside of a mill levy.
Well,
Broadwater County experienced that here this year.
But they put an end date on it. You don't have to put an end date on it.
On a mill levy? I thought they would be
Voted mill
every
levies,
10 years.
right now, they can go for perpetuity. You can cap it out as long as you want, 20 years, 5 years. I think Broadwater County
I
can
think
cap on it.
I can go up to 100 years, right?
Yeah, but you can go a long time. So it creates that stability.
And, well, and that's what I'm looking to, that's what I'm trying to do for the
Because your
city.
costs aren't going to go down.
No.
And it's across the board for the whole county's costs going up. And so we're trying to, and this is where everyone's trying to figure out how, you know, we've got the municipalities, we've got the county. So anyway, so it's just a thing to consider. There's a conversation to have about what does law enforcement look like in our community. So some have passed, some have not passed, and then you're back to saying, okay, what are other options we have? You've got the special districts, which, you know, and all these can be done through petition. They can be done by an act of either the legislative body, either one, if you want to do it within the city or within the county. But it's part of that, having that conversation. You know, what do we want as citizens? And oftentimes we say, what do we want? We want the service. We just want to pay more for it.
Well, that's
And I don't, you know, at least they've spoken, they've had an opportunity to weigh in on it, but I think, so anyway, there's.
people need to understand they can't have it both ways.
Right.
Which makes me think that if you did enter into a 1-year agreement for a reduced number of hours, and you're already seeing the ramifications of that, you're gonna get backlash from the public, right? They're gonna say, this is a problem, and this is,
Well, I'm hearing that already.
and it needs to come to the governing bodies, and the governing bodies then need to say, this is the result of the level of resource that we have to provide this service. So citizens, if you are not happy with this level of service, as we're all tapped out, we gotta figure out a way to bring more money together. And that gets you ready for a successful mill levy election.
That is the sheet I wanted. Must not have it. Mel, do you know how many voters are in the city of Choteau?
Some answers no.
Okay.
The smart answer is no.
The voters? There's only like 800 and some voters in the county.
There's 3,000 plus voters.
There's 3,000 plus voters? Okay.
It's a thousand, like 3,500.
Yeah, see, those are not numbers I remember off the top of my head.
Our population's only
It's not under duress, but it's close.
1,000.
That's our population? I thought we were 1,700.
Yeah. Like 17.
Uh,
800.
Yeah. Sounds about.
Is it 874? Is that the number?
Choteau.
In the 800s, I thought was the actual voters. And that could be taxpayers.
So, Sarah, can tell you real quick.
So too damn many numbers.
Okay.
What do we have to have for a petition?
We only have 1,100.
I'm sure I've got numbers
For a
from
petition, it's
probably 1,006.
on this speak.
That sounds right. And I thought it was Sarah.
30%?
You want a petition?
Petition for, and I know some of your colleagues have, some of these things you can by resolution place something on the ballot. That's one option. Or the petition route. And some of the county commissioners, and I think in a smart move, they're saying, look, I've got 8 people pounding on the county commissioner's door saying, do this. I don't know how much support I have around the county. So you bring me a petition, we'll put it on the, you'll have to put it on the ballot, but that's where they kind of push back and say they do the petition process, and that could get people engaged in talking about it and say, if you can't get a petition together where there's at least that percentage of saying, we want to see this on the ballot, give us the choice, then that could be a non-starter. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it was a brilliant move for someone who was like, oh, that's a smart move to put it back on the voters. So it's not a very vocal
Do you
minority, or vocal.
Folio?
excuse me,
Because I have it open.
Which one is it?
That one's not that one. That one's for.
Yeah.
1,200 what?
Do you know what?
1,250 registered voters.
In the county?
In this city.
In the city?
Yeah, there's 3,500, I think, in the county,
Okay.
somewhere in that ballpark.
That's, Stewart, that's give or take 10.
Okay. How many signatures did the petition require?
250.
250. Yeah, so 20%. Okay.
In the county, according to this, it's 4,291,
Voters?
according to this
Where
Montana
you
Secretary
going?
of State.
Holy moly,
Oh, you're
don't you
going
really
13?
close? 210, 425.
Oh,
Huh.
I was just there.
Yeah, that's more than I thought.
Yeah,
How many of them?
4291.
According to Christie
Of course-
Jacobson.
Of course, when you look at our last election, had 28% turnout.
Just refer. Just refer to
There's
us.
494 inactive, so 3797 are active.
It's probably in there.
So 13,145.
Can I?
Want to drive? I'm
Yes.
open now.
And no, I'm not going to close anything else.
It's not the petitions in that section. At least 4, I don't think 5 special purpose district election, yeah. So may come back to, that was 7-1 that you were looking at before?
Yeah, but that's for alterations of form of government.
It'd be under initiative and referendum, it'd be under 7-5, or 7-5.
Are we looking at municipal elections?
I thought it was referendum, no, it's not there. But there's initiative referendum section there, 75. Oh,
I'll keep working on this, you do that.
what are you working on?
I will find out what the petition
Okay.
percentage is.
So, what's the pleasure of the group? You want to think about it some more? Do you want to come up with some other solutions? What's our timeline? You want to get this done today? You want to circle back, come back in another meeting? You guys can come together and just try to haggle through this process?
I'm not ignoring you, I'm just
I don't-
thinking, well,
I don't think we're gonna resolve it today, but I think we're a lot closer than what we were.
it's not even 4 o'clock yet.
What did I say,
There's
9:30?
not much discussion going on either.
No, I'm just,
Saw the
I
camera
still
went
got
off
12
over
hours of work left to do today.
Me and Dellwo, we're gonna have to go watch Lawrence Welk here pretty quick.
You're gonna what?
Have to go watch Lawrence Welk. Some people don't even know who that is.
Even now.
you know, I've anyway, I realized that I'm older than most of the people in my generation because the things I remember that they don't. So on your spreadsheet here, you average 317.5
Mhm.
monthly hours.
That's not patrolling.
Right. So if we were to add 20 hours of patrol to that, you'd be looking at 340. Ashley's got 336 up there.
Well,
That was what the previous contract said, was 336. And you came in at 317.
but that's the problem with that previous contract is we had 336 hours about the 15th of the month.
Right. But if we were to look at a contract with less hours, I mean, what I'm getting at is you average 320, give or take, hours. If we were to add 20 hours of patrol on that, we're at 340. That's 265.
That's 20 hours a month. You're talking 20
I am,
hours a week.
gosh darn it.
So you gotta add 80 to that 320. That's where I got 400 hours.
Yep. It's 20 hours per week.
$15%.
The petition threshold is 15% of registered voters,
Qualified electors.
qualified electors. So qualified electors within the county, so whatever
Which
that
is-
total.
Particular call.
Yeah, so.
Mine was a recall of a elected officer. That's why it was,
Yeah, it's saying 15% would be the same for a recall.
no, it was 20.
Is it 20 for recall? Okay, I stand corrected. Yeah, so in this case.
15 might be for a legislative thing to put on the ballot.
Yes, yep,
So that might be
for the
correct.
initiative
Right.
process, the recall.
You're still looking at somewhere around 185 signatures.
It-
Well, and it's
In the
qualified
city.
electors and not
Which is
registered.
Yeah, it
active
has to
voters,
be-
right?
It
Those
has
who
to be the
voted in
people
the
who
last-
voted in the last election.
Yeah.
Yep.
I couldn't find where it.
So you get that number, you can do that for each jurisdiction, you can do that for the county.
I got the county one and that's all.
Well, and that's a pretty small number with this school board election. Doesn't matter.
You could also, interesting thought, is use the boundaries of the school district to create a district. And so it'd be the Fairfield district, the Dutton district, and the Choteau district, which would be a larger district, but.
For a
this
special
is-
district.
To have a special district.
For
would be
law
another-
enforcement?
Yeah, for law enforcement. So again, if you're using boundaries that exist already, it's just another way to look at how do we, what are the options that we have? But that would be to create a district outside city boundaries would be an act of the council or the commission.
I actually really kind of like that idea because I'm going to admit Bynum, Penroy, and Power give me a little bit of heartburn because
Well-
they're places where people are collected, but
They're in there,
they
they
don't.
bring their kids, or
they-
the kids are there.
yeah, they don't-
They don't get the service that Choteau.
And
They
I,
also use Choteau services.
I see that, but they're fractional, and so their school district would be a one-way representation of the collection of those people.
It's just another way to look at it.
Can I just share something real quick?
Yeah.
The problem with doing it with the school district is you're gonna just infuriate some damn farmer who is paying through the flippin' nose now. He does not wanna pay for Choteau, trust me.
Yeah.
I'm an old farmer. I didn't wanna pay for Fort Bend. Forget it.
Yeah.
You take care of your own damn problems.
Yeah.
So I think that this issue is Choteau, you're gonna have to figure out how to generate the money in town. And I'm a taxpayer here, and I'm looking really forward to getting jammed up the ass. It's gonna happen. You can't do it any other way. It's just, you're at a crossroads where you have to cross this bridge. And I'm sorry, it's gonna hurt, but you gotta do it. And you can't be nickel and diming about 2 hours here, 4 hours there. You're gonna have to come up with a way to generate the money that can pay for the next 5 years. That you're not gonna be coming back to me and asking me if I can pay for it. And I think if you put it on a levy, I think they'll vote it down. I don't think people are happy. And I know that a special district is not a fun way to do it, but it might be your only option. I'm done.
Yeah,
So-
no, there's communities that have done that. They have
You're gonna have to.
and so each time the contract negotiations come up, then they adjust the assessment in the district.
But how many communities have done it since, was it 1995, when legislation changed on, or was it 2025? Something that Broadwater came in, they had a special improvement district or a special safety levy, safety district that came in under old rules that are no longer.
So they changed the law in 2000, Harold Blatty did that, changed the law, or, well, wrote the legislation that changed the special district law in 2009.
2009, okay.
And so, but the current law, it has any general purpose, right? They have identified, here's a list of things that you can create a district, and anything that has a government purpose. So it opens the door for a public safety special district. And again, if it's in the city limits, then it's a city thing. If it's going to go beyond that, it's a county thing. It could be the whole county, it could be a region of the county, and again, they like you to keep it with existing lines. And Department of Revenue, it's easier for them to calculate on existing boundaries. But that would be a thing that either you could do it, I think you can create that through a resolution of the body or through a petition process. Or probably even a vote. I think so it'd be 7, 11, 10.
It's a weirdly specific one to remember.
Yeah, I've been there too much. So yeah, so there's ways in which you can generate the revenue. So special district, I kind of like Melody's idea. It may not work here, but I like that idea of having a base rate and then the floating based on additional.
Problem with that is there's no way to regulate.
No, it's not. So the budgeting
Like with
purposes,
people,
it's scrutiny.
Yeah,
right?
but you can regulate how many guys you have on at a time and
Yeah.
triage.
But we can't
We
regulate
couldn't
who
do
comes
that.
in the door and who doesn't.
Or you're-
No,
That's
but
my.
You're paying after.
But you have a
the
way
fact.
to triage.
Yeah, we're
If
paying
you paid after the fact, you do whatever you
fact.
do, and you pay extra for whatever was used. However, it's hard for you to budget.
You can't budget.
And it's hard, so it's a great, I love the idea, the creativity. I'm just trying to figure out how to practice. So special district, mill levy, special,
When you talk about a special district, are you talking about?
like a water district, sewer district, fire district, that's saying those same laws.
One of the things that has been in place in Choteau for a while is the frontage fee, which would entail everybody who owns property in Choteau. And there's 103,000 linear feet of frontal property.
Yep.
And corner lots like Mel and I, we only pay on one side.
Yep.
And mine is like 75 feet. Well, we are already paying now, and I think it comes due this year and is eradicated, is the tree and sidewalk fund, which is now going to be eradicated. And we're gonna have to either renew that to generate funds for trees,
Yeah.
or we suck it up and then we just don't do anything with the trees, which is a bad idea. But back to this frontage fee. I did some quick calculations the other day that Tom gave me of the footage, and if we did $75 or 75 cents or $1.50 or even $2, that would generate enough money to make up for what the general fund has now as their budgeted amount, in addition to get you to that 350. And that's where you guys are gonna be, is at 350, I guarantee you. So the thing of it is in that frontage fee, make it big enough so that for 5 years, it can carry the additional load, or if you don't, then you can bank it and come back down to reality.
Yeah.
But the city, that's where the city has to come to, is, I mean, you're gonna pay, one way or the other. And I would rather pay the Teton County Sheriff's Department $350,000 than to come up with a $300,000 or $690,000 police department, which may not even do the job that we want. And then you're gonna have additional fees anyway, because you, if you arrest somebody, he's gotta take it, and he's gonna charge it.
No, I can't charge.
Oh, you wouldn't charge, because that's where that 71 comes in?
Part of the
Okay,
fee.
that makes sense.
So I like where your head's at, right? So what you're talking about is a special improvement district.
Yes.
Which is different than a
SID.
special district. So the SID has a difference, you're authorized on certain things that you can, and it's usually infrastructure, so sidewalks, curbs, road, lighting. I don't think it extends to other services like police or fire.
Okay.
No, it does not.
It does not.
And so that's a brilliant idea. It would be easier to do it that way because it's something tangible that people can see. Whereas a special district would be like, we're going to create a fire district, and so it's established differently and it's assessed differently. But I like where you're thinking. I would love to throw that in the mix. I just don't think the statute gives you the authorization.
Well, that's good to know. If the statutes don't allow you to do an SID, then
For law enforcement,
move
yeah.
on. We have to watch
Trees,
different-
sidewalks, exactly what,
Yeah.
that's what
But
you're.
if
Not for law enforcement or fire,
Yeah.
but for, no, I'm
Because
gonna.
it falls
that
under
might-
public safety, and it
Yep.
doesn't fall
Yeah.
under that.
So a special district, then you could make a special district for law enforcement.
Yes.
And that would include the boundaries of Choteau.
So that, you could create the district that size, you can create the district on any sort of they prefer you to do any existing boundary. So it could be you snake it around, it's like, we're gonna do a little bit of this district, that district, we're gonna make it, create
Well,
a.
that's for them to have to figure out here in the next 12 months. But
So-
the point is that,
The city could have their own.
yes,
County could do a regional one, or the whole county.
and from an old farmer, I'm gonna go back there,
Yep.
these boys out here on the land are looking at $4.50 wheat. And when my last combine that I bought cost $120,000, now they're 1.2 million.
Yeah.
And this guy gets a lot of that money in personal property taxes. They do not want to pay for my law enforcement, trust me.
Well, and the people in the city, the average income for the city has gone down $1 over the last 2 years. So people are actually making less money, and we're paying more in taxes still too.
Well, but,
So it's
Josh, you had a year to figure this out.
uh,
Now you're gonna have
that's
to-
where we're there. I've been
Now you got
hesitant,
it, now you gotta
but-
ring the bell.
But what if, because we've all been kind of looking at this, and we can see that the 316 for us for 1 year is going to be hard to do. What if we looked at doing an expanded contract, 3 years, break it out over that?
316 a year? No, but it'd be worth discussion.
To where we can taper it up a little bit, do whatever we need to do to raise the funds over that period of time.
Well, I guess
But break it out along the period.
my reluctance to lower it from 316 and get by for 1 year to get the city where they need to be and revenues wise is, my question to you guys, is anybody figured out, like on a mill levy, what it would cost the average taxpayer, or what, how much a tax increase for a $200,000 home would be in Choteau? Have any of those has any of that been done?
So to break it out, averaged per taxpayer, this is just averaged. If we were to put the entire $316,000 on, it'd be approximately, I think it was $288 if it was broken out evenly among all of the taxpayers
A year.
a year.
A year.
And that was if the entire 316
Right.
it was either 288 or 388, but it was, I mean, when I said in a city council meeting 8 months ago that it was gonna increase taxes $400. That was quick math I did that then proved out. So, I mean, it is,
But that's if you put the whole 316,000.
right,
You had 184,000 that you're gonna have to pay this year anyway.
right.
So cut that down to 180,000.
So
Half-
120
half of it.
bucks.
Yeah.
Yep.
A year.
A year.
And the thing about that,
But that's only for 316.
Oh, I'm
You know,
just
so-
saying, but that being said, people don't understand, they think this thing is, oh God, we gotta come up with $100,000. They think they're gonna be paying $1,000 a year more on their taxes when it's actually $10 a month.
Right.
and moving forward, you'll be able to keep up with inflation. You can, so the theory is how do we make up the gap that's been created over the last 25 years?
Right, and that's,
So-
my concern is we've been, this has been coming, well, Mel and I conversed here a month ago, and we both agreed that did we think we were going to be still dealing with this now, when it all started? And neither one of us thought we would be. But that being said, there's been no focus on generating revenues, and if we say, okay, yeah, we'll take the 190,000, well, then a year from now, they go, well, we haven't done anything yet. And it's like, yeah, we do the 316 and put some pressure on to get something done.
But that's where number 3 comes in, that good faith participation. And that's why, I mean, I have a real hard time swallowing the 316 because I'm looking at 3 brand new council people. Even if Josh gets elected, I'm looking at 3 brand new council people, which means come January I start over. And that's not necessarily, that's not on me, but if we can do something where we can step it and we can take the time to get something in place, and I'm not saying that next year I wouldn't be willing to pay the 316 because we would have something in place, or the 328 is what a 4% increase over 316 would be. But to do it right now with possibly having to start over
Yeah.
in January
We're trying to fix a 25-year problem in 1 year instead of being able
or
to
in
go
two
over.
or in 2 years.
Yeah.
And it hasn't, and the problem is it hasn't been 2 years. I mean, I've been sitting in this seat driving for 5 months and trying to get Josh caught up and
I've been
anyway.
doing it 4.
Well, I get it.
So what I'm hearing is, based on past experience, you don't have confidence that we're not gonna end up in the same spot where we were.
A year from now.
If we had a 3-year contract that said 260 this year, 290 next year,
350 the next year, maybe
Yeah.
that might.
Or even,
Yeah.
or even 320 the next year.
That was kind of my goal a year ago.
right? So
But
so what I'm hearing is
at a slower rate.
they are willing to take that to council to commit to it. You would have the commitment beyond a single year that we're gonna get there, but that would give them time to create the district to fund it.
So you're gonna figure 316 plus the inflation rate to get the annual payment?
Yeah, to
So
get
if-
up to by that 3rd year.
If we set the inflation rate at 4%, so that's, the big inflation rate, in 26-27 you'd be looking at 329, then 342, 355, 370. That's the 5-year, that's a 4% increase. So if we were to do 260 or even 270 this year, but bump it, and bump it 25 or 30 grand for the next year, and then do the same the 3rd year, we'd be right there in between where the 4-year.
We have to reassess where we're at.
Right.
Yeah.
But we'd also be in between what a 4% increase would be for 27-28. We'd be right in
be
between
caught
it.
up.
So we'd be caught up if we could do that for 3 years.
I'll look at those numbers, but again, I'm gonna say Teton County is not gonna subsidize the city of Choteau. If you were overpaying the next 2 years and underpaid 1 year, I can live with that. As long as the cost of us providing the service is covered over the 3-year period.
So
I
the
see what
cost
you're
of
saying.
doing the service, is that the hours or is that the hours plus patrol?
That's That's your,
That hours in patrol to me are combined.
Okay.
That's a one deal.
It's a number.
We're not gonna differentiate between hours of patrol and
I wanted to make sure of what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you have something you want to say?
Oh, no, that was pretty well where I was with that. If we do the stair step on this, that's the best we got right now.
It's better, and to better serve everybody, my ultimate goal is to, if I can get revenues enough to, we can put on another person to help carry that load, and then we probably have a guy dedicated to Choteau. Essentially, 15 to 20 hours a day, just as a common standard, but we gotta get up to where I can afford one, and we're not even close. We're close at 316, but we're not even close to anything less than that, so. And that's, I'd be a year out before I could do that.
Well, city can't afford what we got right now, so.
I'm just saying, I'm just saying that our ability to serve the county and the other two communities would be better if I had another body, so that's my goal.
So tentatively, we've got something, and I think, I'm hearing what Joe is saying too, or Commissioner Dellwo.
Joe's fine, Dan.
Joe.
Mr. Dellwo was his father.
Yeah. Stewart's fine as well.
But I'm thinking that the committee that talks about in the contract, I think that group maybe meeting more than just once, but just kind of coming together, checking in, how are we doing, what's going on? And I think the city needs to figure out what is their strategy to meet that obligation, so that you're not, at the end of the day, it's like, well, we figured, because I don't want you guys to lose trust in that, we don't want to enter an agreement knowing that we're not going to fulfill our commitment. And you want to be at the end of that holding the bag, and so there's got to be a good faith effort to solve the interim, right?
On a monthly basis, what I send the cities is I send every call that comes into the sheriff's office. Now, the city of Choteau hasn't been getting this because we don't have a contract. So what I send Fairfield and Dutton is every single call that comes into our office for that month. Then we have the guys fill out patrol logs on what they did on each day. They get the totals of those hours, so they'll get to see how many hours we spent in Fairfield, how many Dutton. That comes in every month. Then we do a search in our CAD to just calls that went to Choteau, and we give them that report. So they'll see everything that happened in the county, everything that happened in the city, and then they will see the total hours for Choteau, Fairfield, Dutton, and then what we do out of the county as well. They'll get that.
Especially.
So they can monitor then, and it's a monthly report, they can monitor, see where they're at, and then it help you all make decisions, and it's like, so how do we?
Then Choteau's been getting their hours.
Yeah.
in
What are the
activities.
tools you have available for you to you're committing to an obligation that is going to be a stretch for you, and so how do we make sure, how does the city make sure they meet that obligation?
My deal is I'd like to see a multi-year commitment. This is where we want to be now, this is where we'll be in a year, this is where we'll be in 2 years, and something that the city council commits to, and that
Because then
might
it's
carry
not
a lot of weight.
dependent on the personalities, the commitments made.
So you guys want to write that up, write it up and then share it amongst yourselves about that 3 year, so we're talking a 3-year contract, the stair stepping. And what's the starting point?
270.
270, getting to 316 by the end of the 3 years, is that?
Getting to 330
Or
by the end of
330?
3 years. Because that would put
That
us.
gives you the percentage increase.
Right, and that's, like I said, that's at 4%. At 2%, we'd probably be above where we would be, so there would be some extra built in there.
There will be a lot of feedback annually regarding where we stand too.
Yeah,
But that would also.
and I'll be praying for quiet years for you.
Hey, yeah, you pray half as hard as I do. In my business, no business is good business.
Right?
That's true. So Mayor, what you're saying is that 4%, we could address the commissioner's concern about making sure on the whole, it's even. Because really, in theory, inflation should not be 4% every 3 years. But if you stick with that for this contract, you'll balance out.
He'll
The
get to
new
where he needs to
1510
be
420
quicker.
caps inflation at 4%.
Yeah, it doesn't
Right.
guarantee 4%.
No.
Right.
It'll
So
be
if
nothing
you're
more than 4%.
if you're building it in at 4%, that's the high end.
Right.
Yeah.
To get to, well, we
So if it's only
floated you here,
two
but you're
percent,
coming
it's
back.
going to be longer
So at the
before
end
you
of 3
get.
years, it'll be
Right,
But it- and it-
316
yeah,
times 3.
Yeah.
Right.
To me, that's more palatable, so instead of taking 3 years, it's gonna maybe take 4 or 5.
Right.
But the effort needs to be made.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm hearing is the action item is who's gonna write the initial stair step? The numbers and the time. Oh, yeah.
So he wrote the contract that we already presented,
Okay,
so,
okay, so you're willing to make those,
You-
and will you make
you got it.
edits
and
on?
make the changes, the
Five
other
and six.
changes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll make those changes.
When can we have that done?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock? Bam!
It's 4:15 now, you got a ton of time.
So Josh, if you're writing the contract, I had one more thing under the committee. You had the city attorney, I'd like the county attorney to do that too.
Yeah, that was, oh, okay.
Yeah, on that.
Um,
I was thinking the same thing.
I mean, before we move on from that, something the city is looking at is not having a fully contracted city attorney. The League of Cities and Towns is building a legal team, which, once they have that, we would go to that,
As
so.
far as prosecutors or as far as the civil?
No, so just civil, just the civil side.
That
We
makes
would
sense.
still need a criminal
Yeah.
attorney,
Yeah.
but it would be a cheaper and more experienced alternative than any of the 4 we've had.
I think that's a good move.
Yep.
I really do.
So would they still represent the city on the committee? Is that your intention?
Well, that'd be a conversation they'd need to have with the League of Cities and Towns. So, I mean, I think we can write it that way, because right now we do have a city attorney.
He's in Billings, right?
Yeah, so he'd need to
Do you
zoom
have
in.
Brent?
What?
Do you have
Kyle Moen?
Moen?
Yep. So that might be something we need to look at, but I just, full disclosure, that's what we're
yeah,
looking at
that's,
doing, so.
However you want to work that, that's
Yep.
your call.
Yep. I just didn't want it to come back later down the road and us be like, well, we don't have a city attorney anymore, and, yeah.
But you could
Full
have,
disclosure, full transparency.
you could have legal counsel that's representing the city.
There you go.
Anything else in that contract as presented that needs to be amended while we're editing? Every other week.
Well, I think the county asked that we remove the section on,
The mandating the mill levy for any,
there you go.
Oh, down here, yeah.
number 12.
Just take out 12?
Take out 12. It's not the county's business to determine how the city should raise revenues.
Yep.
Ma'am, would you give those figures again, where you're starting as for the 25, 26 year, 27, 28, and 28, 29? What are those 3 figures?
Yes.
270 starting.
So 270 for the first year. Are we going to 290?
300.
300 and then 330?
$30,000
So
increase.
a $30,000 increase each year.
Yeah.
So where I come up with that is at 4%, it's a 12,500 so from 316 it would have been 12,600 for 25, 26 to 26, 27, and then it would have been 13,1, 13,7, 14,2. So if we're increasing it 30,000 over a few years, that builds in several years worth
We're
of,
headed the right direction.
right.
If you take
But it all
316
depends
times
on
3,
what
it's
these guys do.
948. If you take your numbers, it's 900.
Say that again, Joe, I'm sorry.
Take 316 times 3, it's 948 over 3 years.
Right, so okay.
Yeah.
So the numbers are gonna have to, I'm okay starting at 270, but it's gonna have to be at that 948 by year 3.
948 being,
Total. So you guys come up with
316
another
times 3.
$48,000 in that.
oh, okay. And right now, we're just at 900.
So those numbers are gonna have to be a little different. Doesn't matter to me how it starts, it matters how it ends, just so we're square.
I thought you were saying times 3%. Okay, so
what does it need to be at the end of 3 years?
948 I got
$148,000?
over the 3-year
Cumulative.
period.
The total.
Oh, okay, all right. So what is the
So
number
we'd have to do
per
270,
year?
320, and then
Well,
358.
if we did 275, 310, and 345, we'd be above that 948.
How far above?
I was thinking differently.
Yeah, let's do it.
I was just doing.
So
one quick
at the,
math.
he's taking the 3-year average, so if you start at 270
No,
and then go to
It'd be
raise it, and
270,
then raise it,
320,
the third, at the
and
end of the third
358.
year,
I
the
carry-
total 3-year combined
And that would
needs to
get
be
you to
948.
948?
Yes.
Okay.
But that's also not the
That's with no
4%
inflation
inflation.
increase or anything.
Right.
well, neither is what I did.
So 325. 270, 325, and 358, and that would be
Say, what do you got?
270, 325, 358 would be the 348 plus inflation.
270, and then what was the second one?
325.
325 and then 358.
So the last step would be smaller?
948 over 3 years.
Yeah.
Do a 3-year contract to get to that.
Gives them
That'll
a
take you over the year.
way to break into it. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
So Dan, a special district, how long does that take to, if you create one, you don't get the money right away? Obviously, there's a lag. It's just like a voter levy. You're a year
It could
behind,
be a year,
basically.
Yeah, so it would probably be added to the budget, so so probably from here on out, it would be added to next year's budget, if I recall. So you would
The first
assess.
time they would get any money would be a year from November, though? Is that
Yes,
correct?
probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yes.
with what our budget is this year, especially if we're not spending the 316, and we do the 270, I mean, that's $46,000 that we're not spending
Right.
out of our reserves, which makes it easier to spend the 325 and then put money back in the reserve when we get paid
In the
in
meantime,
18 months.
It'll buy you a little time.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Oh, did we do it?
So 270, 325, and 358 puts it at 953. This one.
358.
Yep.
So 7/11/10/26 is the statute. Collection of special district assessment. When a resolution of assessment has been certified by the clerk of the local government, the county treasurer, the city treasurer, or the town clerk, shall collect the assessment in the same manner as and at the same time as property taxes for general purposes are collected. Treasurer, city, by the all money received by the special district, including interest and earnings accrued, must be deposited in the account. So just, do you have a fire district in the county or a water district?
The county, we do have fire districts.
So it'd probably be, the collection would be the same, right? They send you their budget, you add it to your budget, assess the taxes within that. This could be, no, fire districts would be different. Fire districts are different because they're in a different set of the statute.
I think if they did a special district,
Do you have,
now they wouldn't get any income until November
because it goes to the
of
budget year.
2026.
Mhm.
Because you're closing out this budget year, and so it wouldn't.
Yeah, Too late for anything this
Yeah.
year.
Well,
And that's just a.
Actually, we have until
special
August
district, not
11th.
like
Correct.
Correct.
But to get any sort of a special district or
It'd be
anything.
like
Yeah,
formulating
'cause we'd have
water
to do public
district, like
hearings
they have
and all
out
that.
here east of town.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're similar, water districts have their own set of laws, and fire districts have their own set of laws, but it'd be what you would look at, so let me see, like a grazing,
you could walk up and take
Yeah,
pictures.
so I got the notes.
You can have them. I don't want to take them.
all right.
Well, go ahead and
I'll
take
take-
your pictures
I'll
and then
take
I'll put them at the
pictures.
city office.
Special district.
I need wallpaper for my mayor's
Oh,
office.
hospital district, I think. So a special district would include a cemetery district, museum district, park district,
mayor's
fair
office is a
district, solid
holiday
waste district.
Oh.
I tried to write letters.
So those are that type of district is what they're talking about. And so you'd have,
We're fine.
That's fair.
yeah, so that's the type of district. road districts, road and control districts, television districts. Do you have any? Yeah.
Well, and
I
let
don't
me
remember
tell you,
those.
television control districts
FM radio station,
are about to go the way of the dinosaur.
church station.
There you go.
So would that be
I-
just
do
for
we
the
still
city
have- we
then,
still
or would
have
the
that?
county have to put
Yeah.
that district?
No,
I thought I
if
heard
it
those
was
were
in the
just-
county, they would have to do it. But if they do it only within the city limits,
Yeah,
they,
Mike isn't doing
they
it.
can create a district. So both cities and counties have the authority to create a special district, but only within their jurisdiction.
Okay. But really, in my mindset, I still think this is a Choteau problem. I mean, I know that there's people in here that probably want to shoot me for that, but it's that's the fact of the matter.
I think the first step is a Choteau problem. I think we and the sheriff agree that Choteau has a problem, but the bigger problem is that we don't have enough deputies in the county, which is a county problem.
Well, okay, then that's a whole different thing for the county.
Exactly.
But,
Yep.
I ain't
and
gonna
I
fix
and I
that
don't
too
think
at
what
some
Choteau,
point. Year 2 or 3.
I don't think what the county is saying is that Choteau needs to fund the county. But the city can't say is that the county needs to fund the city.
Right.
So if we have to create a special district within the boundaries of Choteau, which I don't think we dare go out to the hospital district or school district or anything, because you're gonna piss off a bunch of farmers, because they're gonna get involved.
There would be no appetite for that.
No, they would come in here with tar and feathers.
They've already been in.
What's that?
They've
So
already
we
been
come up with
in.
Okay,
a
there's
no
date
appetite.
that's gonna be.
So I'm reading Joe's mind.
For
But-
their review.
But the fact of the matter is that the city now
Give me a week.
needs to, in
A
their
week?
next
Okay.
meeting, start to talk
Is that for
about
them
how
for
in
Thursday
God's name
meeting?
are we gonna pay for this? And if it's a special
Yeah.
district that they have to
That's
put
what we
together,
actually have.
you guys need to be working on that right
There you
now.
go. There we go.
ASAP.
Yep.
And what they can do is look at what can we afford within our budget.
Right.
And then, and this is what we can do and still maintain the same level of service for the things. And then that difference is what you need to talk about is,
Right.
and it could be, it could be just a special district that we need, $30,000. It might be 50,000, it might be 100,000, but you gotta decide what that level is.
Right.
Well,
And
and I
I set
think,
that assessment each year.
I think that's a floating number too. I think that in the district, I remember when I was in Choteau County, we built a water district on the south side of the Choteau County boundary line. But we built into that enough money that was generated out of our taxes every year to continue to fund it, even with surges. So, I mean, say for instance, that,
Stabilizes the
say
rates.
the main cistern blew and they had to put in a whole brand new 100,000 gallon concrete cistern. I mean, we're talking maybe $500,000,000.
Yeah.
They had monies built in there so that they didn't come to me every year and say, geez, Ed, we gotta raise your taxes again because we
gonna
didn't
send those
figure
to
enough
us,
to put
actually?
this in
What's
there.
that?
We sent
So that's how the city's gonna have to look at that.
Yeah, that's their
Long
capital,
term, long term.
the capital fund is what they probably, when they set it up, created a capital fund, so they, right
Yeah.
out the gate, they had the resources to sustain, it. Yeah.
So Josh had to go. I mean, I don't get it. He deals with dead people. They're not getting any deader. No.
That's his livelihood. I'm a
Was that a
coroner. Yeah. I'm a coroner, I get it.
Dead people are his livelihood, huh?
Yeah, you don't want dead people waiting either, because the live ones that are loving them.
Yeah, no, I understand. I thought we needed a little levity.
I do appreciate the conversation, because this is giving us more ideas and things as we work on our white paper to try to, and our hope again is to provide sufficient resources for these types of conversations, that it doesn't come to us, but you guys can figure it out, you have the tools to do
I
that.
appreciate the outside input that you brought.
And you're not billing us because this was a learning experience for you guys.
Love it. You're gonna pay for all of it, all of our research to this point.
We do appreciate that you were willing to be the first ones, though, that
Yeah.
even though it's not in effect yet with the codification, that you're willing to step up and come to the table and do the hard conversations. We appreciate that.
I think we got, if we can get everybody to agree to those rates increases, I think everything else is coming in place.
I think so too. And I was really careful not to look at my other council member who was here, because
Good job.
I technically had a quorum with the two of them in the room.
No, you didn't.
No, you need 3.
You need
I only have 3 council members right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's true.
But, yeah,
Yeah,
they could be here, that wouldn't be a problem. but-
they
I
can
guess
be here.
it's-
I just didn't want participation.
Yeah, good job.
Yep.
I guess, if we can,
We have 3, got 2 vacancies, or 1 vacancy.
1 vacancy. Yeah, Heather's vacancy was July
You live in
15th.
town.
Yeah.
So you look like a problem solver. Why don't you get on that?
I'm a problem child. I'm the teacher. I'm the pain in the ass. But I think one of the things, Stewart, you guys are gonna have to do with Melody's Health is you're gonna have to inform the people what in the hell's going on.
Agreed.
You're gonna have to be so transparent, you're gonna have to be so upfront, and you're gonna have to say, just like this water increase, that dings some people pretty damn hard, me included.
Yep.
But I like being able to turn on my faucet and have the greatest tasting water in the state of Montana.
Yep.
So, if you're gonna have good tasting water, you pay for it. If you're gonna have good law enforcement, which I want and I have appreciated in the past, I'm willing to pay for it. And I've talked to my immediate neighbors, the Wards and the Skinners, and they all say, if it costs us $150 a year more, we'll pay it. They're not bashful about it.
Are we done? As far as I'm concerned, are we good, Joe?
Yeah.
All right.
That's-
Let's adjourn so she can hit.
Thank you, sir, for your.
Very pleased to have met you,
You too.
and thank you for coming.
Thank you. And I'm sorry I have to rush out of here. I have a kid that's hanging out with her uncle right now who is not the most comfortable.
Oh, boy.